some of you all again. All right, look at our CRA agenda. Are there any questions in regards to the the minutes or new business regarding the CRA?
Oh, I'm excited to see it on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Nothing else on that. Moving on to our agenda for our meeting on Tuesday. All right, on the consent agenda. Any questions about the consent agenda?
Yeah, I had a question about the roadway management technology contract. So we're wanting to extend it another year?
So if you recall last January when you approved it, it was for a 4-year term.
Yep.
And there was some kind of hesitation about the contract in general, just because we didn't know how good it would work, what information it would provide. And we did the update a month or two back and showed you guys the information it was collecting. And the initial CAR said we would bring it back just as an update, to make sure that it was good information, and we wanted to move forward with keeping it for the next 3 years, and we do. It's gathered some great information and allows us to look at our road scores and show what they actually are.
So we don't want to, just 1 year of data is not enough, I take it? We want to.
So it continues to update. So as roads, like for example, we just finished the paving project. So those roads that were paved, they actually show a red in the software right now. Once the project's done, we will turn those to green, and then we will be able to track over the years of how those roads degrade over time, how long it degrades. For example, Kentucky had a lot of traffic off of 390 for the construction, so it would wear out a lot faster, and we could track that and keep up with it.
And this will also help in trying to keep
Correct. This is information we can submit for appropriation request or grant request, and actually has the data to back it up.
Okay.
Is it cheaper to do a 3-year contract
It's
versus
a
a year to
4-year.
year?
No, ma'am. It's $34,000 per year, and we have this in the street department budget already. So it's just a $34,000 annual charge for the next 3 years.
I noticed there were some additional, like for placing, on the breakdown, there were some additional charges for like placing the instruments on the cars or the trucks.
So that is all completed. We paid for that last year when we first went with the service.
Okay.
And then the hardware stays on the vehicles. And basically after 4 years, if we do this the whole 4 years, we own the equipment and then can just keep it on after that.
And I think there was something else to training.
Yes, ma'am. So they have a call. We have a call every other month where they show us any updates or if we have any issues. Like there's 5 vehicles that have a camera on it, so take pictures. We had an issue with one of the cameras, so they go over that and how to update the camera. They have came by twice since then to fix any issues we've had. So it's that kind of stuff.
So the service has been good.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any other questions regarding the pavement technology contract or analysis? All right, anything else on the consent agenda?
On the declaring the assets for as surplus. I noticed there were a couple of trash vehicles.
Yes, ma'am. So we're actually getting rid of 2 knuckle booms. We purchased 2 new knuckle booms this fiscal year. They have been delivered and placed into service. And then we leased 1 new side loader garbage truck. So we'll be selling one of our spare garbage trucks, the old rear loader. It's just been our spare for several years. It's still a good truck. We'll still make some good money on it, surplusing it. But it's just not one that we use anymore. And one of our side loaders that we have currently will become the spare in place of the 23.
And the lawnmowers are just no
Yes,
good
so
anymore? or-
those lawnmowers, I don't remember what year they're purchased. They're on that asset form. They've been around a long time. They need new mower decks. The mower decks are $8,500 to put on there. The Kubota, they're great engines, but it's just not worth us fixing it, and it would be better just to surplus them and get them out of ours.
Okay.
Anything else on the consent agenda? All right, moving on to number 14. This is the petition for contraction. Any further discussion on that? Any updates from staff for the conversation?
We met with him and went over all of his options. We even tried to be very creative with some options. But basically, he does want to de-annex, and it's really best for him financially.
There's not like any huge negative impact for us from doing it, right?
No, there's no negative impact for us. We met with Mr. Gregory. He explained everything he wanted to do. If he was to keep the parcel as is, it would actually have to be turned to industrial. If he brought that to to the commission, if the planning department brought that to you all, there's no way that industrial would fit in this area, so he would not be able to continue with the use that he currently has on it. There's no loss to us as far as, future projects or anything. Of course, he will contract from the city, so we will lose that parcel as a tax base, but overall, it's not much of what we lose.
Okay.
Just, he wants to continue as construction as a
Right.
laydown site, and that does not fit within.
And it's in his best interest as well as the city's for him to contract. And he's also got a parcel right next to it that I think he wanted to build 4 homes
That's right.
on. So I mean, he will be bringing other things into the city as well.
But just like this.
It's just a good move between the city and the owner.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Any other concerns about that one? All right, moving on to new business, revising the city's code of ordinances for the cross connection and backflow prevention. Any questions to Mr. Lightfoot? I think it's really just updating it per
Yes.
per state regulation. So
It's a little bit of housekeeping as well. You did have backflow provisions in a couple of places in the chapter of your code, which I don't think was intentional. So we're just doing a little housekeeping as well.
One little suggestion on that one. I think it's on page 64. It says it needs to be updated biannually. It's my suggestion that we change that to say the number of times per year, every other year, because the term biannual technically could mean twice a year or once every 2 years. So we can clear up some confusion by just changing that to specifically what we want, which I think is once every 2 years, right? Or is it?
For
Every 2 years.
residential ones every 2 years, right?
What about commercial?
Commercials every year.
Every year.
And is there commercial backflow on each individual unit?
Each unit, right.
So just change that to different wording.
any other input on that one? All right, number 16, discussion and possible approval to authorize city manager for task order pending engineering for the Aberdeen Parkway Stormwater Improvement Projects. Questions on that one?
That's been in the long-range plans to work on that area.
Yes, ma'am. That was actually in the Stormwater Master Plan from 2019, as well as an HMGP project was submitted, but it was denied because of the cost of the benefit cost ratio. So we have budgeted for that project this year just for the design. So we'll get it designed, get a construction cost estimate, and then come back to you all hopefully next budget to be able to construct it.
And did I read it properly to say that this was already in the budget?
The $85,000 is in the budget, yes.
Maybe.
All right, any other questions on that? All right, discussion and possible approval to install an additional census antenna base station. Questions on that one?
All right, this is so that you can monitor the new water meters
Right, so
electronically.
currently, we have one antenna. It was at the utilities office. We recently had it relocated to Kane Griffin, so it has a better, per our prop study, that was a better location. Now that we are adding tons of meters to it, we're, at around 3,300 meters today on the radio read system. As our plan is to hit 5,000 by the end of this budget year, and you have to have a redundant antenna in case this one goes down. If it goes down, we have no way of reading the antenna or the meter. So this second antenna ensures that, as well as has the right location for the prop study to hit the entire city as well.
So how many total meters is there? If
We have around 11,000, just under 12,000, I believe. Currently, like I said, 3,200 on this radio read. Our plan is to hit 5,000 this fiscal year. And then the city of Panama City Beach actually just entered into a contract with Core and Main to install, mass install of their radio read meters. If that all goes according to plan, we hope to bring that to you all next fiscal year to piggyback off of and complete our project.
And just let me add, we are ahead of the 2,500. We had set a goal of 2,500 for the next 5 years. We're ahead of that number, 3,300.
3,300.
So we're doing really well. He assigned, matter of fact, he was employee of the quarter to install these, and they are doing really well. Chris has 2 meters, so if you want to go on and show the commissioners and give them an update on that, he did this at Table Hall with some residents, and they were very, very interested and interesting to them.
So this is one of the old SR2 meters that have been installed probably since, I don't know, the early 2000s, I would assume. And this is the new iPearl, which is the digital meter. So this is what we're replacing those with. And then this is the current touch read system where the meter readers go out, they touch it with their wands, it backs up into a handheld, and then Stephanie and her department, they upload the information to create your utility bill. This transmitter is being replaced with an antenna that looks like a hockey puck, and that's what sends it to the base station, which then Stephanie can upload and generate the utility bill off of. So a lot of the meters that are the stuck meters, it's because these have broken and they're not collecting water or collecting data like they should. So we've had a lot of calls, of course, as you can imagine, especially after Panama City put their deal out. Hey, I've been paying a $58 water bill for the past 4 years, and now my water bill is $117, and that's because their meter's been stuck or not working, and now it is. So we cannot go back and back charge those people.
No.
We can only collect the information moving forward and do it. So it's not like we're back charging them for all the water that went through their unmetered. We're just moving forward. That's what their bill should be.
We do not estimate from previous history.
So do we have a lot of meters that have that problem?
So we have about 800 meters currently that are considered stuck. There's also some of those meters that are empty houses, people that have irrigation that aren't using their irrigation system. But we probably have about 800 meters total that are broken and they're only paying the base rate out of almost 12,000.
And that 800, that includes the irrigation meters?
Yes, sir.
That's not just home?
Right. And you could have, a domestic meter and an irrigation meter, and your domestic meter for your home is working properly, but then your irrigation meter may be stuck, so you're just getting charged the base rate. And a lot of times that's when the higher bills happen because they've been watering and just being charged the base rate, and then it goes up to their actual consumption.
And sometimes people turn off their irrigation meters because they don't want to
Right.
occur any expenses during the summer, because it is expensive to water your grass. And so some people do that as well. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important that they go out and check every single one of these meters, which takes time to be able to do.
So we have a plan as far as out of the 800 meters to see which ones are a problem?
Yes, sir. So they have it's called the zero consumption list, which is generated from Stephanie through customer service. That is what then our utility department generates work orders on to go out and replace the meters. So there's like 154 work orders in the system today of where they go and start replacing meters. And as they get those done, they add work orders from the zero consumption list to keep it going.
So we have an idea when all of them, well, I don't think you ever get 100%, but close to its 100%.
So we plan, like I said, to hit the 5,000 on the radio, and as we change these stuck meters, they're going to the radio read.
Right.
So our plan is to hit 5,000 this year, which should not be an issue from what we statistically have changed out. And then we anticipate to bring you all in our fiscal year 26 budget, the funding to replace the rest of the meters, piggybacked off of the core and main contract through the city of Panama City Beach. So by the end of fiscal year 26, we plan to be 100% on
What do you think the total
gonna be
cost of
huge.
anything is?
total cost of replacing these meters.
Yeah, like, you're coming to us with some now and then talk about more piggybacking off them. What's the
I
ballpark?
would anticipate probably $2 to $4 million to complete the whole project.
That's one of the reasons we've broken it up every year. You've seen it in the budget. There's a certain amount of money that we put in there every year for change out meters. We know our budget can't handle that much at one time, so that was that 5-year plan.
And that project also pays for itself because you've got about $1 million of lost revenue because of meters. So as you start getting meters updated, you're bringing in more revenue and you're
Yeah.
paying for the meter
Over
project
time, it'll
itself.
pay for itself.
Right.
Absolutely.
How much does that little contraption cost?
Contraption.
I believe this is $286 offhand, but I can go back and pull up our last quote and I can send it to Miss Vicki, who can send that to all of you, the price of the meter, the transmitter, and everything of what it costs.
I was just curious.
So
So
we, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So we hope that if the beach gets a contract and we can piggyback off of it,
Be less
that will lower
expensive.
the price.
So, correct, when we do the mass install for the remaining 6,000 or 7,000 meters,
Yeah.
we will get a much better price purchasing all of those meters and transmitters at one time versus purchasing, 1,000 at the time, 500 at the time, like we
Yeah.
do today.
Okay.
So just some quick math, since we're worried about the money. So let's say there's 400 meters that are home meters that we're not getting money on. And then if you do that over an entire year of not getting money, that's like $192,000 that the city's not getting. So once those 400 are replaced, that's a lot of revenue coming in. So,
It is.
And keep in mind too, the sewer consumption bill is
That's
based
true.
off the meter usage.
Oh, that's true, too. So
So
it's
our
gonna
sewer
be-
department, it helps the revenue in sewer department,
Yeah.
it helps the revenue in the water department. So these meters are key to ensure that we're collecting the proper amount of revenue.
Do we concentrate on the regular water meters first before the irrigation meters?
Yes, sir, we
Yes.
do. And now if we get to a home where there's, both meters are stuck, and we do that, but we do focus on the domestic meters first.
Right.
Because you get water and your sewer charge out of that.
All right.
What are we replacing those with now?
These, yes, sir.
And that's gonna be compatible with what you're saying.
Correct. And those are compatible with the antenna as well. You see the little,
Yeah.
the black top right here, the wire's been cut off of it, but that's the transmitter.
Right.
And so this is the current touch read. This is being replaced with the radio antenna. Right.
Something about it though, when you see a big old piece of brass and the top plastic part is the breakable part, and we're gonna pay money to bring in this new technology. Every time it seems like new technology needs to be upgraded more, there's gonna be an ongoing cost involved with it. But I know we're saving money, you're calculating out the savings, but it seems like ongoing technology.
So there will always be upgraded meters.
Upgrading.
So this is an iPearl. Of
Right.
course, they're developing the iPearl Plus that's coming
You're-
out. So of course,
sucked
the
into the
technology will
future.
always change, but we're so far behind already on that.
Now for handling because everything's done in the cloud and all that.
Because pretty soon there'll be a plus plus and then a
Correct.
plus plus
Yep.
plus plus.
It's like
Get
your
ready.
iPhone. I think they're on 27 now, and I think I've got the 10.
Water
So
will be virtual.
What do we project, how long we will last?
Yeah.
The hole in the bucket.
they have a 20-year warranty on the meters. So, like I said, those meters have been in the ground since the early 2000s. So the manufacturer projects 20 to 25-year lifespan on these.
When a sound system will take one monthly fee, they handle this and they pay hundreds of dollars a month. They do upgrades and messing up your stuff. You gotta pay more.
That's the game.
Yeah.
Number 18, discussion and possible approval for the RFP data communications phone system replacement. Any questions for Mr. Samuel?
Yeah, I do. I just want to know what the biggest difference between the go-to and the Granite, because the scores were pretty similar, but the other one, the cheaper option, is not the one that we're going with according to this.
I believe we had some follow-up exploratory calls with both the two top contenders on that one. The system we currently have is really antiquated. It is a hybrid voice over IP. It requires a lot of infrastructure server-wise here, and we had just losing a lot of reliability out of that. And when this come up for renewal, Ms. Vicky and I sat down and discussed, some of the main points that we needed out of the newer system. And when we post those exploratory calls we did have, we went with Granite. I believe that they have a lot more experience in niche environment with the like municipalities. They also work with a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, Coca-Cola, Walmart. There were a company I wasn't too familiar with, but after the additional interviews with them, we solidified that is our decision on there. Yes, sir.
And so price is not everything with an RFP. These scores in terms of price are a calculation. Everybody gets a calculation. So these are scored within us. We have a formula that we do. So that's just part of it. So that would be the score that they would get for the price side. And then the scores would go through and score the rest in terms of how their services they would give to the city, and that's how they come up with their final score.
But when we built this building, didn't we know we were gonna have to enter into some kind of contract with technology, phones and whatnot?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah, going to voice over IP is an excellent idea.
yes.
It's all cloud-based. We literally don't have to buy any more infrastructure in-house. And all of this is, we're not actually purchasing the phones. So if we have problems with them, we actually swap those out with them. They're all covered underneath warranty. So,
Okay, that's
yes, sir.
So the $24,000 is for the equipment,
I believe it was.
and then the 19,000 is the yearly fee?
Ms. Vicky, I was
Where
going
are you
to say,
seeing
can
that?
installation fees around 4,500, and then 19 per year.
Yes.
Yes.
But then down at the bottom, it says physical impact, 24,195, with 3 additional 19,000.
Yeah, so in the first year, you're gonna add the implementation fee. That's a one-time fee.
For the equipment.
Yeah, for
the
everything there. And then
installation.
after that
Okay.
is the
And the
19,000.
configuration, like where we have to port our current phone numbers over to the new provider and things of that nature. So it's a one-time implementation fee. Yes, ma'am.
I know phone systems are expensive.
They are very, and
They
just
absolutely can
remind
get
you,
that.
the
It's
last time we
ridiculous.
bidded out a phone was in 2017, when the previous city manager was there. And so it was surely time to do that. We've had a lot of issues with our phones, as you probably see. Sometimes we put on Facebook, our phones are not working, our phones are down. And I know that's frustrating to residents as well when they're trying to get in touch with us.
We should have done it when we built the building, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah, but we still would have had to bid it out.
And I don't believe our contract
Contract
was
was
up
up, so,
for
yeah, we would
renewal
have to.
quite then. Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely had a contract.
They were working out of the portables, the contract that we had.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to have
Money,
fun.
money, money.
Any other questions?
I just went through that.
No fun, is it?
Thanks. All right, moving on
Got the
to
building.
number 19. We discussed the continuance and extension of the Finance Review Committee. Any input on that?
So just in a nutshell, it's basically just taking what's already in place and then adding the responsibility of specifically looking at the annual budget?
So when you look at 113, this is actually what we voted on and passed, I think a couple of years ago. There's no changes to this. This is the amendment. These are the amended changes that we made a few years ago.
Okay.
And essentially what we initially adopted the committee to do was be a debt review committee to make some recommendations. And then we voted to, I would say, I guess, transform the committee from the debt review committee to a finance review committee to look at the annual budget and also to establish or, work with the staff in regard to making recommendations for utility rates and assessment fees. So for example, the finance review committee, that's the committee that gave recommendations on what to do with, I think, $1 million. Should we build a library or should we not build a library? So,
Rates,
the different utility rates and such.
stormwater.
I would say that I think we need to clean up the language a little bit. If we're going to continue with this committee, that we need to clean up the language for it. For example, when we say, to establish as a primary goal a balanced budget, you cannot, in the state of Florida, per state statute, not have a balanced budget. So I don't think that has to be there. I don't think we have to say that the committee's responsibility is to make sure staff has a balanced budget because state statute says you have to have a balanced budget. So it's not as if they're looking over the budget to make sure that it's balanced. Now, can they give some input? Sure, but in regards to having a balanced budget, I don't think that has to be a primary goal because that's a state statute that we have to have a balanced budget. And then, of course, as the budget moves on, then staff brings it back to us and we make adjustments to the budget. But it has to be a balanced budget. So I'll recommend, looking at that language to amend it or either to remove it because that's not something we have to do. And then in regards to the utility rates and assessment fees, if we ask them to continue to do that, I would say as needed. So for example, they've already presented to us a 5-year plan. So I'm not saying it's going to be another 5 years before they have to look at it, but they've already looked at the utility rates and gave us a 5-year plan as to what that should be. I think, was it a 5-year plan that the Finance Review Committee gave us for utility rates, like a 5-year?
Yes, the idea that you would review it annually.
Right, so essentially, they've already done that part, and that's for us to review it. So we've adopted that to review it annually versus them actually going back to the utility rates again. And so, so I would say either omit that or either just put as needed because it's not something that has to be done on a regular basis or an annual basis since they've already done that particular thing. So that's one of my recommendations for that as well. And I guess we would need to look at, if we're talking about them meeting with staff and budget stuff, just how does that work with it? Would it be, more advantageous for them just to be a part of our budget discussion and we discuss it as a city commission or, having their budget aspect of it as well. So, yeah, those are some of my thoughts. I think it's a committee certainly that we can, we've been able to bounce some ideas off of. We have some great financial minds that are on the committee. Any feedback from staff in regards to the committee?
Just a couple of things that they do have like their own budget workshop as well. They actually have the same budget workshop as you all would have. Some of them meet individually with staff, with Kiki and myself to go over additional questions to understand the budget. And so they're well informed about the budget itself. They meet November the 19th, I think at 8 o'clock or 8:30. I can't remember which one. But they do what you all request or direct them to look at.
8:30.
8:30, thank you.
Why is there not a commissioner on these important committees? I'm just wondering, why isn't there a commission representative on various committees?
So I have discussed with city manager about providing appointments. I think I discussed with Ms. Jennifer as well, maybe a while back, about giving appointments that certain commissioners do with certain committees. So for example, I would be the representative for the finance committee. So I've talked with Joe again, as available, meet with the finance committee. So that is something that we can do.
I was just curious why,
But it just, historically, it just hasn't been done.
because, like, for example, if Jamie was on the finance committee, when we met on Fridays, he could give us a detail of, what went on at the finance committee and,
Typically, the staff
Or-
person has been the one to give the update. So for example, you have a staff person that regulates that, or not regulates it, but that the staff is the one that represents the commission on the committee in regards to that question. So then the staff is the one that gives the update as to what the committee actually meant about from that perspective.
but it's not the staff that approves the budget, it's the commission.
Correct.
And,
I would just assume I would also assume in the past that, for example, if I were to go to the planning board and I would have input about what the planning board does, then I'm also influencing their decision for something I'm going to vote on later as well. Not that it violates
True.
sunshine, but it
Yeah.
can, because committees also have sunshine rules as well.
Would you mind if I just added to that? When you originally set up these committees, your intent was that they be citizen-driven?
So that last part again?
Your intent was that they were citizen-driven committees when you originally?
Yes.
set them up?
Yeah, I think that'd be something I think that'd be good for us to have that input, because that's the purpose of the committee, is that we don't have input and that we let the citizens drive what the committee does. So I think that it is citizen driven.
You can require that the chair present a report to the commission to sort of have that feedback if you would like. You can certainly make that a duty so that they have that expectation when they're the chair, they need to come either quarterly or twice a year or as requested. But you can certainly build that in so that you don't have to rely entirely on staff.
it's not that I distrust the staff at all. It was just that we make decisions based on what y'all tell us. And if we could hear what the citizens were saying, or that group, I was just wondering.
But we
why
do give you
no.
guys minutes, so that,
Yeah.
that we give you minutes and documentation for that, so that, it's just not our interpretation, it's actually what happened there. And I know with the finance review, the chair would come and give updates, and that's something that any chair can still do, if you request that, and if that's going to be in your ordinance, your resolution.
And I know when we do have hot button issues, for example, like there are members from the planning board that are here that have spoken when we've asked, hey, what is it that and Amanda does a great job of really explaining, hey, here's a report, here's what they said. But there are members that are here oftentimes that can give input if we want to hear a reflection from the committee itself. So
Again, I want to state, it's not that I distrust any of the staff members. I just think that is one of our areas of great importance
and
for this commission.
I will say the times that I have attended certain committees, then you do get kickback from citizens in regards to why were you there?
Really?
Yeah.
Distrust?
Because your presence can change the dynamics of a meeting. So
Wow.
if the mayor shows up for a meeting, or if a commissioner shows up for a meeting, your dynamics can shift what that meeting does. So that's one reason why, like some meetings I have attended, but there's some meetings I just stay away from. I follow the city manager, or I'll just call the chairperson. So with the finance, I've just called the chairperson and say, hey, here are my thoughts on this. Or I'll call one of the committee members and say, hey, what are your thoughts on X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
And they've done it that way.
It's a shame that we're perceived that way.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily the word I'm looking for, scared or anything. It just, because I've been to a few planning boards and watched them, and yeah, it just, all right, we got a commissioner here, you know, what should we say, what shouldn't we say, you know, it just, I think he's right. I think it does change the dynamics of it a little bit. I mean, when I showed up for the Grease Pro thing, it probably didn't make any difference because there was a lot of people in there at that one,
I
but
think when we attend those, we can only attend them as citizens. We're not,
Right.
we're not considered or perceived commissioners.
Right.
Like, I've been to planning board meetings, but I don't say a word or
Right.
participate in any way. Sit in the back, I've sat in the back of the room, and you're nothing more than a citizen attending a meeting. You can't be so
But that's,
that's the perception.
right.
And yet.
And when we
you're still
go, but you're
commissioner.
still looked at, you're still
Yeah.
a commissioner, but they're, you know, they nod at you or say something about you being there, but, you know, but honestly, that's our,
I like, I think one of the benefits of some of these committees, like the planning one, I know we have to have, I think that's state statute says we have to have that, but like with the finance committee, having certain specialties in there, because none of us are all experts on every single area, we're all different, right? And so, like with the finance committee, we've had accountants and bank people and things like that, that I feel have a lot to bring to the table, you know? I think one of the things they brought up was the leasing of the garbage truck, and I thought that was a really good input, you know, stuff like that.
Yep,
So,
yep.
All right, any other recommendations or concerns about this? We can discuss it again on Tuesday, of course. Tuesday.
I have a question. Is it
Yes.
the intention of the commission that this be a permanent citizen committee, or just every year you'll
It's
evaluate whether or not
this every
to?
year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so every year we discuss it and then just reappoint it. Any other questions? All right, moving on to Commissioner Warwick. The discussion about speeding in Moore Highlands.
yeah, I mean, pretty much what I said at the last commission meeting, I just want to make sure that we're following the policy and procedures we have in place, and I'd like to have this presented to us, like it's coming to us the first time. We discuss it and vote on it, because we are supposed to be the final authority on it, according to the traffic safety policy and procedures.
well, as far as I know, it was brought to our attention here that
Yeah.
that there was a problem. And then at the pre-meeting, you stated what you were gonna do. And then the traffic committee got involved.
Right.
And then it was agreed upon that the speed bumps were going in or whatever went in. But now the people who live there are not content with what's there supposedly. From the emails I'm getting from residents, it's like, we don't like the bumps. I mean, somebody emailed last night that, you know, it's affecting certain people with artificial hips and medical issues, feeding tubes or whatever. The bumps are really hard on them. Somebody else said, you know, there's another option is the humps. And of several of the emails I've gotten, they rather see the humps than the bumps. But from all your studies from the city, you say there's a speeding problem.
Yes, sir.
There's a
yes.
speeding problem, thus there's got to be something in place. So why don't we just listen to the residents and go and change from the bumps to the hump? How hard is that to do? We have temporary humps.
Yes, sir, we do.
So why don't we get the bumps out of there and put the humps in there?
And that's why I
And
want
see how the reaction of the residents are from that.
But I thought one was permanent.
No,
it's original.
there's temporary humps as well, right?
We can do the construction on those.
There are the temporary, we actually had a resident bring in the, you know, the paperwork that they found off the website. There are temporary humps that are just like the bumps that are down that bolt
They're more
down.
gradual.
Right, the bumps are high, the humps are
Yeah.
wider and spread. Right.
And they're more expensive.
Connecticut, they are more expensive.
Yes.
Connecticut Avenue has the permanent asphalt speed humps Bobby and I were talking about the other day when they put those in years ago, but they're permanent, but they do make the bolt down
Colorado.
style
yes.
humps.
Those are humps on Colorado? They feel like bumps in my golf. I'm trying to make a teach.
Those were constructed,
I'm going 25.
yes.
Yeah, that's gonna feel like a bump. for
Yeah,
sure.
it feels like a damn. I go airborne.
And
I'm looking for clubs behind me.
and Commissioner Ward was concerned that I did not follow the process. And if I should have brought it to the commission, I am truly sorry that I did not bring it to the commission for you guys to approve it. My thought was, this is the way it's been done since I have been city manager. The only time things have been brought to the commission is when you wanted to go against your policy and put in stop signs. We would bring those there because that's really not to help calm traffic. And so, but I did, as you said in one of our pre-meetings here, I said the traffic committee had met and speed bumps would go in next week. And I also said stop signs don't work. They were misaligned in that particular area and could not work there. But should have taken it a step forward and allowed the commission to vote on it. And for that, I'm truly sorry.
But we all agreed on it.
No, we were informed they were installing, but we never really,
No one
We
said
didn't have
no.
it. Yeah.
but my big focus of
We
bringing
stood
up.
and nodded. We didn't go through a formal process of it.
Right,
So we all looked and said, you're
Yes.
doing something.
Yes,
right.
yes.
I mean, my feeling was, okay, you're doing something. Okay, so now we know we get the reaction. The people that live there are saying they don't like the bumps. They would be okay with the humps, is from what I'm saying is because everybody I've emailed, I said, we're gonna talk about it. There's a solution that's imminent. We gotta do something else. Let's get the bumps out of there and put in humps if there's still a speeding issue.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, and if there's a cost, let's vote on the cost. Because that's what we vote on, is how we spend our money.
I do know currently the residents are doing sort of a poll so that they can have a consensus on what they would actually prefer, because again, there's only 2 or 3 that's emailing us. Because some don't want the bumps or the humps.
That's the one.
There's some that don't want anything. They just
Well,
want.
then we can inform them as the city that we've done everything we can, and then speeding is on them. An accident, a death, or whatever, and then see what they say then.
Because I had
'Cause
said,
we're trying to be on the side of safety, so.
that's exactly,
So go ahead and let them do their study and then come back and say, okay, take everything out and then, an accident, causing harm or anything is on your HOA after that. City's done everything they can. So then you don't have to spend any more money or just go away from it. Let them handle it. It is an HOA over there, right? No?
No, that's the other problem, or one
Okay.
of the other challenges.
They act like a damn HOA.
So I guess Commissioner Ward, so the concern for this, I guess, is the order in which things were done.
Yeah, just the process and procedures.
Process and
you know.
procedures, okay. So with that, I guess the one thing, so I guess here's a thought. Even if city manager presents information today, not saying she shouldn't present information today, the contention is in regards to speed bumps, and there is no regulation or no direction in the traffic committee manual on how to deal with speed bumps. There is with speed humps, and I think that's where the contention has come in, is that there is no direction for speed bumps, specific protocols for that. So today, or for this upcoming meeting, what we want to hear the data, or what we want to analyze or review the actual traffic safety manual that was published in 2017. We want to review that and then come back and hear the data, because we got to get the manual straight before we can actually.
Didn't we hear the data when you were talking about the speeds, the high speeds, yeah? We reviewed the data when they talked about it, because I remember talking about what were the top speeds in the area, and they were pretty damn high. They were like in the 50s, right?
in 60s.
Yeah.
think 58 and 56.
So
and
we
68.
reviewed the data.
Yeah, I think the key here is the manual, because there's just kind of confusion on what the requirements
We
were.
could straighten that out, but in the eyes of the residents over there, you know, it's what do you want? There's bumps there now. Do they want them, not want them? Do they want humps? So who do we need to,
So-
there's no HOA.
So here's-
What's the entity that we have to solve to make people happy over there?
So here's what we've done. We did have the,
I mean, those humps went in on Colorado. Nobody said anything, right?
so we did have a community town hall with the residents of Mowat Highlands.
You guys live there, that's right.
Right, yeah, so about 40 people came to that. I would say about 40 people came. And the consensus was that the citizens would go out, a group of citizens would go out and actually do a survey, or sort of poll the neighborhood. And they would provide different options. Do you prefer bumps? Do you prefer humps? Do you prefer nothing? Do you prefer flashing lights? Whatever those different options are. Do you prefer if we take everything out and we get twice the speeding limit on a ticket, or twice the charge for a speeding ticket? What are the different things that you would prefer? Knowing that still the commission in the city has the final say in what's going to happen, but because we don't have a HOA, to get a better input from the citizens themselves. So that is what they're working through right now. So I think in the afternoons, different groups are going around door to door getting that
When are we
feedback.
gonna know how they feel?
Once
So-
they
You gotta know how people feel these days.
once they finish that.
So I did get a call from Brett last night, and apparently he had sent out an email, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't get it. And remember, this happened once before, someone said they sent an email and it went to spam, well, this one went to spam.
Yeah.
So if you look in your spam email, there is an email about what you're talking about in there. I think you just sent it last night.
Okay.
So,
With the results of the survey?
Now, is it all the results? Because nobody knocked on my door.
Because they're going 45 by my house all the time.
I live in Mowat Highlands. Nobody knocked on my door. So that's the problem. Are we just going to, nobody knocked on my door?
I'm just telling you they sent an email, so.
I'll look at it, but I'm just saying nobody knocked on my door. I can ask my neighbors if anybody asked them.
Yeah.
There's somebody at my house 24/7.
You have to ask them, I didn't.
I just,
Don't y'all have a Facebook page or
Yeah,
something?
we do.
we do.
But
Maybe
Did you
they
see-
should.
They did.
did you see the data that he
Yeah.
sent?
We should take the live update of this and send it to the Facebook page so they know we're talking about it and that we want to hear from
Yeah,
them.
they've been putting on there that we're having
Yeah.
a conversation.
Well, let's appeal to them publicly and say, hey, we gotta hear something. So if their Facebook page is
Yeah,
prominent enough,
I haven't received any. The only ones I received are the
obviously that's
people
the
that
big thing
want.
nowadays too.
They just want them up. They don't want them there.
I-
Okay, that's what I've heard from the ones that contacted me. And we do have to remember,
I've got several emails that say they'd rather
Yeah.
have humps. Humps.
It wasn't
Spam.
John.
It went in junk.
Or junk,
Yeah,
whatever.
junk,
it's called.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like I said at the last commission meeting, this is the way I would like to have it done, is it presented to us like it's the very first time. We discuss all the data, and then, with the process, it says we either accept it or reject it.
So here's what I'm seeing that he has is not what they said they were going to do, which is fine. And that is basically, so I think.
Whether you're for or against the speed bumps, I think.
Right, but there is another group with Carrie that's working on what are the options. So that therein lies
Karen, or?
Carrie Lewis, Keri Lewis.
Oh, I
That's
didn't
who's been contacting me and other staff members who's creating so that's the issue with not having the HOA, because now we have his information. I'm not saying it's wrong, but his information on something that we said, okay, well, hey, we're going to talk about the options.
Right.
Says 335 against, 6 supporting.
Yeah, but you have 300 to 500 homes in Mowat Highlands, so there's more than 341 signatures.
And I think it's about 450 homes in there.
Yeah.
That's more than 50%.
Well, with 450 homes, there's 5 people in my home. You see what I'm saying?
You give them a voice?
All the time.
It's even more generous than me.
Me too. Okay.
So let me say that isn't what we discussed as a group, when we left, we discussed what the options would be, getting a sense of what the options would be. So I don't really know what they're doing at this point.
I'm just focused on the policy and procedures.
Right.
I'm not focused whether I'm for or against the speed bumps, just the policy and procedures.
All right, and I take responsibility for not knowing exactly what that policy was, okay? But does it say a vote by the commission or a decision by the commission?
The
You know?
issue is that speed bumps are not in the policy. So it's in the past, it has been at the discretion of the city.
But his point is that it was the recommendation by the safety committee and that we were supposed to vote on it.
But it's not in the, speed bumps are not in the policy. I think,
But any action as recommended by the safety committee should be voted on, right?
Right. Yeah, so in the introduction, it's at the very end of it, it says, after committee review of the information, the city manager will make a determination, provide a recommendation, be considered by the commission. The commission has the authority to accept the city manager's recommendation or reject it. That's what it says. Anyway, I mean.
Because we
see-
discussed it here and I was
I don't
kind
know how
of,
formal it was, but I
me
mean,
either.
by
I
our
said, well,
silence, we
if that's
agreed.
what the committee
Yeah.
thinks.
I don't know how
I-
formal it had to be.
And yeah, the first time it was sent
How we
out to
got
us was back,
formalities.
first time it was sent out to us was back in April. And I should have looked at it more in detail back then than I did.
Yeah.
So that's bad on me.
No, so is your interpretation that we have to vote on it?
That's the way I interpret it. I don't know if the city attorney has a different opinion.
I just know, I've been here since 2017, and putting any speed humps or bumps down has not been brought to this commission. Only thing I know has been stop signs. Bobby, you can correct me if I'm wrong about the stop signs. And those were usually brought by the former mayor or mentioned by one particular resident. The mayor would say, traffic committee, go out and look at this, bring it back, see if it deserves a stop sign. The traffic committee
Right,
would
by
go out.
statute, you're not supposed to use
That's
stop
exactly
signs to
right.
control
And
speed.
that's one of the reasons we brought that back.
That's why it came in front of the commission.
That's exactly right.
Right. So
Yeah.
in your years, how many times has this happened where you laid down humps or bumps?
About 3 times. Most of the time they end up coming out.
They do.
Yeah,
I could
'cause
email it to you.
the biggest complaint is when you put it in front of somebody's house, it's the noise.
Right.
All night long, bump, 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 and they just get them out.
Actually, I got a special folder.
and I will say that.
How long have they been there?
2 months.
And did we put them in July? Somewhere along in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
about 4
if
months.
if it's usually a temporary thing, would we pull them and then do a study again?
Well, we can.
We can.
We intentionally put the temporary ones.
Right, so you
One
can
for the
pull 'em
cost.
And then see if
You
it's
can pull them.
caused a deter.
Right.
Well, when I spoke with the city manager, they said that they would do a new study in January to see if speeding had been, if that actually changed the behavior. Because that's the purpose of it, is to change the behavior
Yes.
of the drivers. And so when we met back about
Is that
it,
with bumps or without?
Without,
Without.
Yes,
So
sir.
they're gonna come out probably before January.
yes,
And do
around
a-
January, we're going to take them out, yes.
so that was their initial plan, was to take them out around, which Mode Highlands is aware of.
Okay.
So that has been communicated via Facebook, via town hall, that the plan, even this last time, they had the plans to take these out in January to see if our speeding behavior has changed. Now, the feedback from Mode Highlands is, for example, like this guy that sent us the email, is that, hey, it's the UPS drivers and the DoorDash guys that are doing all the speeding. So that's what was stated. Yeah. You know, that it's UPS and DoorDash, but I'm saying there's 7,000 trips in a week,
I think a UPS truck can go 50 miles an hour.
you know, and so that has been some of the contention has been who's doing the speeding, you know, where's the speeding being done? But that was the initial plan, as I remember it, was putting down the temporary ones to change behavior. If they see that behavior is changed by another study, then those can be removed once that behavior is changed, that, you know, people aren't speeding. But I guess back to the concern with the, thank you, Bobby.
Really can't break it up
Back to
right
the
now.
concern with the protocol.
I'll send it to her.
So
I'll send it to her.
where are we right now?
So here's where we are right now is on agenda item number 20. So, with that, I guess the question is, would we like for the traffic safety committee or city manager to bring us back the actual manual in December? If she go through, make some updates to that, bring that back to us in December so we can review that, the full manual with the insert of all the speed bump information so that we can review the manual or review the traffic safety committee policy manual that we would like to review that in December. Take this month to make the changes that are needed to various updates based on the conversation we're having regarding speed bumps, et cetera, and then review that in December. Is that okay with the commission?
My whole idea was to be presented just like the way it's written right now. We should present it to the commission, we discuss it, we vote on it.
But so here's the thing, there is nothing in there about speed bumps though. That doesn't, like when you look at the policy,
Okay.
there's nothing in there about speed bumps. So and what I'm saying is that if we're wanting to be strict about following the guidelines, then there's nothing about the installation. There's nothing about where they should be installed, how to be installed, unlike the speed humps, which does have regulations on how these things are done. So if we're saying that our previous discussions are sort of void because we didn't have an official vote on it, then I think we need to take the full Monty and say, okay, let's look at this from a policy perspective. If we're looking at a policy, not just the opening paragraph, because we have the opening paragraph, but then we have nothing to follow on in the rest of the manual besides the speed humps, the stop signs, the speed humps, the stop signs, etc. So that would be my recommendation. Would be let's let staff update the manual, bring it back to us in December so we can review it in December to know what we should be doing at that point. And hopefully by that time we'll have the information back from Wood Highlands as to what their preference might be, etc.
And you did say in January they're going to be removed regardless, right? To do the study.
Through the study, if driving behavior has changed, the ideal was to put down as I talked to the city manager committee, was to put down temporary speed bumps to change behavior, and hopefully within 6 months after people get tired of going over them, they will slow down and then remove those so that behavior is changed. Now, in my observations, I see people just hit them head on. Some people slow down, some people don't. But that was the purpose of it, so that, hey, hopefully by January, these can be removed and that people's, from the data, the average person was driving at least the average is over the speed limit.
Yeah.
So we're 35 miles per hour is the average. Highest speed, I think, on Dundee, which is the entrance, was 56. On 24th Street, which also has a speed bump, was 68 miles per hour. That's a 30-35, and somebody's going 68 like it's a drag strip.
Yeah, the highest one was 68 miles per hour.
Yeah, and that's on 24th Street.
68.
So that's a 30 mile per hour. Somebody's going 68 as the highest
25
speed.
now.
So, and you do have, and that's literally where a lot of. So not only do you have people walking there, but that's where the crossing is to get to the rails or trails. Is right there as well. But yes, so the idea was not for it to be permanent. It was to be something temporary to help change the behavior, to come back and try to
Okay, so are we going to discuss this at the meeting? Are we going to?
I don't know, I think we got a difference of opinion here. I'm of the opinion it should be presented to us just like the manual says. That's my opinion.
So here's the thing. They present it to us, but then what direction do they have for the installation of it once we say yes or no? Because there's nothing in the manual that says how to do it.
It's all retrofit too. It's already been done.
Yeah, and it's already there. So there's nothing in the manual that says this is how you install the speed bumps. Whereas there's directions on speed humps that say 90% for this, engineering for this,
I thought we were just
etc.
talking about what we were going to do to help the people over there with their opinions and whatnot. I didn't know we were.
I think the mayor's position is this policy doesn't apply because it doesn't address a procedure for speed
Right.
bumps.
But when you read the introduction, it says here, these are all your different traffic calming.
But they're not addressed.
They are, but in here it says it has to come to the commission.
For speed humps, it does.
Right here it says.
Has the authority to accept city manager's recommendation or reject. Yes, it does.
But
But there's
that's
nothing,
where I'm at.
but there's nothing in the policy on speed humps though. So
Speed bumps.
Speed bumps.
on speed bumps, yeah. So how do we,
Other than what the U.S. Department of Transportation manual says to establish locations for traffic calming devices, that would be your default in the absence of this policy saying anything.
So again, if this stays on the agenda, what are we hoping to accomplish?
What are we voting?
Voting on whatever the initial recommendation would have been. That was my whole idea.
We vote.
So what was the initial recommendation?
to install
bumps.
speed bumps that are already there?
I guess nobody said anything, so it happened. We were all here when they said they were gonna put speed bumps in.
We were.
Yeah, we kind of, okay.
We're all like, yeah. So what did we do wrong?
Oh, well, I didn't,
I mean, by the letter of that, it was brought to us, we have the authority, we didn't say no. So by our silence, it was a yes, they told us what they were gonna do.
So
No
I
one
think
objected.
this is what happened. We were informed they were getting installed, right?
Okay.
And we were just like, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And so
what we should have done, as all of us, and I include myself in that mix, is when we originally got the email back in April this year, we all probably should have read that, and I didn't read it till later.
Well, you have the authority to accept or reject. I feel like if you disagreed with her, you should have
Said something
availed
there.
yourself of your authority to reject hers and take a formal vote to change her direction
Right.
to staff.
say vote or discussion?
It doesn't say either. It just says has the authority.
So we did it. It happened. The deal went down.
So yeah, it was presented to us. We didn't say no, and it is there.
so again, what do you hope to accomplish
Even by the letter of that.
if this
we did.
stays on the agenda?
Yeah.
What are we voting on? We vote.
The speed bumps.
It would be accepting the recommendation of the city manager. Is what, yeah, you vote to accept it or you vote to reject it. It would be
Then
the
is
vote. That's
is
what
that
we're-
what the agenda needs to say then,
In my opinion, yes.
Amy?
Yeah, that's the question before you.
So we can word it like that and make it an agenda item and have a vote on a specific thing that's already been there for 3 months. But what, are we taking into consideration what the people are saying and trying to give them a solution or a remedy to it? mean,
Well, I
that's-
think that's
If
the
we're
whole.
worried about stuff that people are talking to us, and let's do what we're supposed to do, man.
Because right now,
I mean, you're splitting hairs on something that we already did, you know?
I mean, that's the whole intent of the
Yeah.
policy is.
I get it, when you're looking at books and reading to the letter and holding it down, but we're reading emails, we're talking to people. If they got an issue with speed bumps, do we want to put in speed humps? Do we want to take it all out and do the study a little early, give them a Christmas present, say, hey, we're pulling the bumps, and then we'll come back? You know what I mean?
because to Pat's point, although Brent has given us
I mean,
this,
we're wasting.
if you remove the speed bumps, there's still a speeding issue. And then the community, you were here, you see Facebook, the community is still divided on what is it that should be used to mitigate
I agree with that.
speeding. So,
I'm not concentrating, I'm concentrating just on the policy. but-
Yeah.
so I get it. So if we look at the data, there's a speeding issue. So what are we going to do responsibly as commissioners right now to mitigate the speeding issue?
Well, you don't have to have it all in one, like, you don't have to have it all in one vote. You could retroactively vote that we accept the recommendation. Then we have a second agenda item to remove the speed bumps. You know, like,
Or you could do it all in one motion.
And what are we gonna do?
or you can amend the
What people are
motion
saying.
or whatever.
So, but I'm asking as they're there. I'm not saying they can't be removed. They're there. According to the data, there's a speeding issue.
Why don't we just vote to remove them and do the study again? Because it's already there, it's already done. We've already said, she brought it to our attention, we nodded our heads, So that's an agreement of some kind, satisfies that, and then if there needs to be wording changed at another time or in the same thing, let's make a motion to change the wording. But let's make it a sensible motion where, hey, we've been talking to people at the Mowat Highlands. Let's go ahead and remove the speed bumps and do the study to see how it is now and see if we've resolved the issue. Let's just vote on that. And that's going along the letter of the law on that. Get the damn speed bumps out of there. Let people have the reaction to it. And then, okay, by the way, this is messed up. Let's go ahead and make another motion to do what we got to do to the paperwork. But, so, okay, does that sound good? Can we word that into an agenda item? So that way we're giving an action back to the people to fix it. We're not working on a damn piece of paper and then not addressing their issue. You know what I mean?
I think you can by following the policy and procedures. You can do all that.
Well, there's a problem with the policy and procedure you're saying, and you guys are going back and forth about, okay?
Well, if you
There's
want to follow
also a
policy
problem
procedure-
with how it was handled or whatever, and we already know the citizens' reaction. They don't like the speed bumps, guys. We're already hearing that. And the next leg of the study is to pull the speed bumps and do it. So let's move that along at least, okay? And see what happens. If there's still a speeding issue, then we could bring it up by the new procedure, how to put a speed hump in there, okay? Because we'll already know by history they don't like the bumps, so we'll go to the humps. But let's have an action to a problem, you know, and then a reaction to the logistics, or however you want to word it out.
So what do you think about that,
We
Commissioner
got
Ward?
people out there that are telling us what's wrong. Let's fix it.
Yeah, and we can do that by just following the policy and procedures. I'm telling you. She presents it, we discuss it, and then we can provide.
She already did that.
But he's talking about in an open meeting.
Right, let's do it, but let's do it about removing the speed bump.
And that conversation could turn into that.
So what Commissioner Work is saying is let's just review the data, and then based on the data, if we think the speed bumps should be removed, remove those, conduct another
So
study.
we're going off where it is now down the road. We're not going back to the beginning. And if we're reviewing the data,
Commissioner, and correct me if I'm wrong.
oh, we're going back to the beginning on the data.
Right. Commissioner Ward, when he made this recommendation for us to put this on the agenda, was for us to go back to the beginning as if we've never heard this.
Yes.
As if it's never been presented to us, which is why I say if we're doing that, which is fine, then it goes back to if we're following the policy, okay, we hear this, then when we get to vote on it, there is no policy that gives us guidelines on how to vote on it. Therefore, we need to look at the policy itself.
But just,
But I
and let's
don't
just say,
understand something.
let's just make the assumption here. Let's make the assumption, let's say it gets rejected, right? We can reject it with, hey, with a caveat to it.
But if we're going back to the beginning and she's saying that, okay, they're speeding, they're doing this, they're doing that. Okay, the next step would be to vote on speed bumps. They're already there. So we're not particularly voting on speed bumps. We'd be voting to remove the speed bumps.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually, like in the moments of the meeting, because.
All right, so you're proposing that we go ahead and
So we're gonna
she
do
makes the
fictitious work
recommendation.
before we do the current, what's wrong with the pathway.
Yeah. So we would have to deny her recommendation.
Well, we may not
To put-
deny it.
I'm just saying if we're going to.
You can still, you could accept. the
Knowing what you
recommendation.
know, what would
And
you,
then still
what would you,
change.
what would you say? I would say, you would say,
I think we're overcomplicating it. I just.
No, you
I just want to remove.
Present it to us, we discuss it, we make the motion. And the motion doesn't have to be a simple accept or reject. It could be accept with these caveats or reject with these caveats, and that be done.
dude.
That's it.
So let's say hypothetically, it comes up before us, someone can make the motion, we accept the recommendation with the caveat that based on recommendations from the citizens, we remove the speed bumps.
But then that's conflicting because
Yeah.
you're accepting recommendation. The recommendation was to put down speed bumps.
Right, but the speed bumps are already there.
Right.
So based on the data that was given to us, we accept,
No, you're not accepting the data. The recommendation was to put down speed bumps.
Right.
right.
That's the whole
So
conversation.
to say I accept the recommendation but then we enter the caveat to follow the recommendation of the citizens, then you're not accepting her recommendation. Accepting her recommendation would be to leave them down until.
Well, that would be if it happened in real time, but it didn't. You know, we're retroactively voting on something that's already happened.
Yep,
Correct.
exactly.
But to accept the recommendation to put down speed bumps, to go back and say, caveat, parentheses, we're still gonna do this, based on how many of the signatures we got for those to be removed.
But you guys both attended the meeting at Mode House?
Yeah, I hosted it.
You can do a non pro tunc, the retroactive, where we're voting now as if we did it back then. The concern I have is that, I know it's true for land use applications, I don't know if it's true in the traffic manual, but sometimes once you vote to put the speed bump in, it's got to stay there for at least a year before you can undo it and remove it. I don't know if that screws up anything. I know your manual, specifically with regard to speed humps, you can't petition for their removal until they've been there for a year. So because we're operating in a gap with regard to these speed bumps, I don't know the answer, but I do want to just caution you, when you take your affirmative vote, if that triggers something either on the policy, the DOT manual, or your own, that you may not be able to undo that
So
action
if
for
we
at least a
want
year.
to, if we want to take them out, the vote would be no.
You wouldn't be able to do that for a year. You may
But
have your
if we
hands
bring it
tied.
to the beginning and we vote no, then it has to come out.
It
probably
was an
need-
unauthorized
Don't-
act.
Uh-huh.
It says,
Don't we need to know then before we do any voting?
What if we just
If
voted
there's
to take
anything
them
that's
out?
gonna
Can
kick
we
us
vote
in
to
the
take
rear
them
end?
out? Because there's no formal
No, yes,
vote to put them in.
I would agree with that.
I mean, you are operating in a gap right now. So I feel like the question before the commission is, you have the authority to accept the city manager's recommendation as a group. It feels like a majority of you feel like you did that even without a vote. You accepted it. It doesn't say you have the obligation to vote. It doesn't give you the duty to accept. You have the authority. If you waived a formal vote, that happens in local government. Yeah. So how does this commission want to proceed every time it has the authority to do something? Is the question procedurally. I am most
So
curious about.
according to you, your interpretation is that our authority was essentially exercised when we did not.
We
reject her
acknowledged
recommendation.
You didn't
what
affirmatively
the action
reject.
was. We acknowledged it. We just,
Yeah, we didn't accept or reject it, we just were like,
and we
okay,
acknowledged it.
without really
Headlines,
realizing.
consensus.
Yeah, there was a consensus that we
is the way
accepted what she said.
local government works sometimes. So that's satisfactory to me. You have the authority to accept the city manager's recommendation. She brought it to you. You had the opportunity. You certainly had the opportunity to object and the authority to take a vote to formally reject it. The fact it was done informally here does not legally bother
So we can do that now?
me.
Yeah, we could do it now and say, hey, let's take them out. Let's take out the speed bumps. How do you guys feel about taking out the speed bumps and then follow the study? Why don't we just do that now and talk about it?
So here's one of the questions I have, you mind if I get that from
Yeah,
you?
sorry.
As I was reviewing
That's
this,
Not even
letters
that
on
bad.
page. Why not work on the?
this is part of the reason why I'm confused about the whole speed bumps. When you read about the speed humps, okay, it classifies it as two different criteria. There's a minor, and then there's class 1, which is minor excessive speed and volume, and then there's a class 2, which is excessive speed and or volume.
Did you want to look for today?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When you look at the minor excessive speed and volume, it says measured 85th percentile speed less than 10 miles per hour above the speed limit. And when you read the data, the 85th percentile on Dundee is less than 10 miles per hour than the speed limit, because the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, and I think it's 34 point something miles an hour. And then the volume, and this is the part I'm not entirely sure on, it says peak hour volume equal or less than 12% of the average daily traffic, or equal or less than 10 daily trips per household assessed. I believe that's true, but I'm not sure, because there's a lot involved in that. If it is, then why would we put in something more excessive than this? Because this says remedial action, none, nothing. But then if it's excessive speed, it has to be over 10 miles an hour or greater, and this one doesn't even meet that criteria.
What was the average speed on, so you're saying the average speed?
It says 85th percentile.
Okay. And what did you say the 85th
I think it
percentile
was like
was?
34 point or something.
And the speed limit is 25.
Right. I get it. And I'm just, that's why I'm kind of confused of why we went with the speed bumps as opposed to the.
Because they're
speed.
temporary.
They're temporary
So-
and that was something that could be retractable and taken up at any time.
Three. Let's take
And they're less expensive. I was surely looking to try to be fiscally responsible with that as well. So,
Well, thank you for looking out for our community and our citizens. We had people that complained about speeding. We did a study. They're speeding. The city followed through on what they're supposed to do in regards to ensuring the safety of the citizens. The
I know,
others,
I get it. I mean-
so they did that. They brought it to us. City manager brought it to us. Said, hey, this is what we're going to do. At that time, by consensus of not rejecting her recommendation, we all, whether you disagreed or not, there was no verbal outspoken
We
disagreement.
thought we were doing the right thing.
So,
I mean, I did at the time.
yeah. So,
So let's undo it.
Okay. Good with that.
And
But is it
we
by-
need
is
to
it okay
rewrite.
if we do this
Yes,
by the
we need
letter?
to,
Read all
Well,
the words.
It doesn't say anything about bumps in here, except for the introduction.
that's why it needs to be maybe readdressed, that policy.
That, yeah.
We do all agree
that-
that we want to update the manual, right?
So that can be an agenda item that we work on, but for right now, can we take them out?
yeah. So,
All in favor? Take 'em out.
So are we saying that we would like to take the speed bumps out and then by taking the speed bumps out to conduct a commission,
Complete the study.
another study to see what the traffic is now?
Well, that was the course of action, right? So I just say pull them a month early. It's okay with me.
But-
We're already hearing from the
As long as we
citizens.
update the manual.
I think it needs to
Yep.
be noted though.
That's
that
what the
we're-
agenda,
we're not
the agenda
dropping
items
the
should
issue.
be, we're talking about the agenda. The agenda
Yeah,
item should
that
be
we are going-
update the manual. But right here now, according to what's there now in the manual, if you make if we're talking about the recommendations and whatnot from what we're hearing in our emails and the citizens, I think we should continue the study by taking the speed bumps out and then seeing what the impact is on the traffic now. Is that fair?
That's,
And listening
Yeah.
to the recommendations of Moet Highlands on what they would like to see.
We don't have that yet.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
but in the future.
We'll get it after you take the speed bumps out.
Hey, Amy,
Get
is
all the
there a
emails.
stipulation that we can do that?
You can do it, certainly. You can direct her to do anything.
well, not
No,
anything,
I meant-
not jump off a building or anything like that.
Are there going to be any repercussions for taking them out early or?
I don't think so. Again, policy-wise, you're operating in a gap here.
And
So-
according to
you're-
Bobby, that's how they do it. They're go in for a few months and then you take them out.
Sorry to keep this going, but are we taking those out today? Are we waiting till Tuesday for a vote? Or-
Just give us a
I mean,
chance.
what is the,
We don't know yet.
Yes, thank you.
Take them out.
okay.
Yeah, we haven't voted yet.
We haven't voted.
We can't tell you.
We hadn't come to a consensus yet.
All right, so I'll get with city manager on rewording number 19 or number 20. So I'll get with her on rewording that, or Amy, whoever, rewording that for number 20. Let's move on to number 21 because we still have a stormwater workshop. The purpose of today's meeting is to talk about stormwater, not necessarily our agenda. So we still got stormwater after this. All right. So let's go to number 20.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor. Can't city manager say right now that she'd like to take them out and we all agree on it?
Well, here's the thing. I don't want us to come back to this point where we say we didn't have an official vote. So we're not. So it's going to have to be an official
And
agenda.
because of the
item.
nature of this, the public doesn't have an opportunity to act and
So we'll
public
need
comment.
two,
So
so
you've
will
gotta
we
put it on
need two
Tuesday.
agenda items on this then?
No, just that
Just
one.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So no, I totally agree with you. So I'm not in disagreement that we can't by consensus take action, but because our initial consensus got us to this action here, then let's just follow through on officially going on record for it.
I'm interested to see how that agenda item's gonna be worded then, I guess.
So, all right, number 21.
Last meeting, I told y'all to please consider this possibility and that you would be getting some information, discuss it with whoever you discuss things with, and to give it some thought. Since then, Ryan sent y'all some information. It's very specific and guidelines are very specific. It's not just an open free-for-all alcohol, and it's not in public or public events. No Lynn Haven events. It's only for private with strict guidelines.
So I guess my question is, where are these events being hosted?
Where would they be hosted?
Correct.
It could be hosted on a street over there on Florida Avenue.
So it's still, but that's,
If you have to get permission from the city to use whatever whether it's the garden club or a street or a pavilion,
okay.
the city has to still give permission.
So you'd still go through the formal process of getting the permit.
Oh, yeah.
So this is for, I guess I'm trying to say, this is for city, because I've read through this. I'm trying to
City
see-
property.
City property. Okay. All right. Now, I guess my question would be in regards to alcohol consumption on city property, does the city have to have those permits per the state in order for there to be alcohol on the property? That's something that we would have to buy. Because, no, I'm saying, unless that person has a mobile permit, like from the alcohol board, who's gonna have to have the permit with the state in order for that person to be able to have alcohol?
Are you
in their
talking about the
facilities?
liquor or the?
Yeah,
license?
what if the person already has the liquor license?
So they would have a mobile liquor license, I assume?
Well, I actually have a little bit of experience with this. So I was a quartermaster with the VFW post, and there were times, like I remember, I think it was down at St. Andrews, they had the big Mardi Gras festival. We did that for a couple of years, and it worked out really well for us.
Because you were the 501(c), you
Right.
could pull the license.
Right, so you can actually go to where you have your license, and actually, you don't even have to get it with the one that you have.
And it's
There,
and the beer company is actually running it, right? The beer company sets up a truck and
right, they do all that stuff, but as far as all the license goes, well, as far as the license goes, you can apply for a special permit that's not even at the VFW
right,
post.
right. Only 501(c)(3)s
Right.
do that so many times
Right.
a year.
So normally they would team up with a nonprofit, or someone teams up with a nonprofit does it. But you can only do it so many times a year.
Right.
Remember?
You only have so many. Every 501(c) only gets so many of those.
That's right.
And that's the way you do these outdoor events, unless the city itself has a license.
No, we don't.
And then as far as like the bonding and the legal liability and that, there are companies that specialize in that. You go on there and apply for insurance just for that event.
Right, it's
And we've done that with the
it's a
VFW.
dram shop insurance for the event itself, and the city would have to require to be named hold harmless and have to have the requirements of how much insurance is required to do that on said location,
Right.
whether it be a park or a
Correct.
street corner or what.
So who would be responsible for enforcing like, hey, only beverages with an ABV of 6% or less are permitted? So who's gonna go and, who's gonna be responsible for testing whether or not there's 6% in there or less?
Well, they would have to put down some money, as,
No, I'm saying.
As a guarantee.
If I have a bottle of wine and my bottle of wine says 6% or less, I can pour that wine out, pour 12% or more in there. How are you gonna know that I've done that? I mean, I see
well,
what
it's
it says.
something I learned a long time
Wine
ago.
is-
If somebody wants to be bad, they'll be bad.
Yeah, well, doing that's already illegal.
No, I get that, but I'm asking, how are we gonna, if we permit this, how do we regulate? In the end, the city's gonna be here responsible for regulation. So it's not just giving them the permit.
There's
How do we regulate this? It's not just saying, okay, hey, go to our garden club and have this event. How do we regulate this particular event? The same way we regulate our special events by saying, okay, hey, you got an event in the park. How do we enforce the regulations of this? That's my question.
Well, we have an attorney here that can tell us whether or not,
I have some concerns that not every piece of this proposal is enforceable. To answer your question, however, you can, the two places where I feel like the city has the most ability in terms of what you can control is your insurance coverage, whether the amount
played
or
already
specific
on
coverage
Tuesday.
is required for an alcohol
gonna try to
event.
straighten it out.
And the extent to which you require security law enforcement to be there, whether it's your own or the provision of, 2 per 50 people or whatever. To sort of keep an eye on things. I feel like those are the two things you can certainly control, whether someone is drinking only 1 drink per hour with a maximum of 3 for
Thank
the
you.
event.
I appreciate
I don't know how the city possibly
So
could
we
control
can't,
that.
so other than that, we can't regulate anything else in here.
I think you have the ability to put some teeth in it is if you do allow alcohol at an event, they comply with your coverages and your insurance requirements and your security requirements, and there's still an occurrence, something bad that happened. There's an emergency, there is a drunk driving incident that can be traced specifically to this. I think you have the ability to deny future permits or either for that event to that promoter. But that's where I think your biggest controls are. In terms of regulating the conduct that happens at the event, I don't feel like you have a lot of true enforcement opportunities there.
So from those I've talked to, their concern has been the regulation of the conduct. Not so much our liability, liability has been part of it, but based on what's here, their concerns have been, how do we regulate the conduct? How do we determine that if I give you 2 tickets, that you don't take your 2 tickets, like happened at all events? When I go to the chamber event, you get 2 tickets, you give it to somebody else, that person that had 2 has 4. And the bartender isn't keeping up with how many times that person's been up there with their tickets. They just know you gave them a ticket, they poured you a drink, you got your drink, and that was fine.
Well, why don't we require the vendor to pay the police officer to be out there? Private events do that all the time.
I think that's
Police officers are going to be out there to count how many tickets and drinks you're getting though. They're there to provide security. Not a checkpoint for how many drinks you get.
Wouldn't that be automatic overtime too? Like you would be charging them because you schedule your people already, so every event would be automatically overtime police pay. But they still can't enforce some of the stuff that's said that will be happening.
So the idea in terms of Mr. Gray was that they would have a ticket or scan that they would have to come up to get it would be tied to that particular person in terms of how many drinks they would get at that event. I mean, that was his thought process. But remember, we have a lot of events that we do not attend, that PD does not attend, like at the Garden Club, they have weddings, they have showers, that we can't be at all of those events. And once you open this up, that means that they'll be able to have champagne, wine that we will not be able to in any way control. We just won't. That would mean that that's all our officers and staff would be doing. Garden Club is filled with events all the time. We turn down a whole bunch of events just because they're asking, can they serve alcohol? And so those are some of our concerns. This goes back to Mayor, how do you control this? Because it's going to fall on the city, and the behavior is going to fall on the city as well when it comes to things of that nature. So those are our concerns.
What the commission can also do too, if you're going to go down this road and you have some true resource issues, is to maybe limit, the number of large alcohol events or medium alcohol events that are happening at one time. If you don't already define what a small, medium, and large event is, you'll need to do that.
We have that in our special events.
Okay.
So that's part of the special events application. You have a small, medium, and large event.
Okay.
Right now, anything under 50 is a small event. Anything over from 50, I think to 200 is medium, and then over 200 is a very large event where they have to pay an application fee for that event. On top of that, you will have to charge them some type of fee for serving alcohol. I mean, a high $500. Because we've got to, if this is something the
What about
commission
what
is
about
even.
insurance requirements?
Insurance as well. I mean, I know this came up before the commission many years ago about serving alcohol or allowing alcohol to be served at events or in parks. And of course, they did not pass it. This is one of these areas that there surely has to be a lot of control with this.
I would agree with that.
But then Amy's telling us that we can't have any control of it. I mean, based on, and I'm saying the control of, okay, I get my 2 tickets, you got your 2 tickets, go get your drinks for me.
Some of these specific proposals, I don't think are enforceable. Are there other things that I think you absolutely can? Can you require that the area where alcohol is being consumed be secured in very specific ways? Yes, I think you can do that. You can verify that.
Yeah. That's
But
required.
unless you are already on sort of a digital system to receive some revenues for the event, I don't know that there's a way to sync your software to track how many drinks or drink tickets are being purchased. I don't.
I'm just trying to think of, I'm looking at all these things that you'd be required to do, right? Normally, if someone's gonna do an event like this, why are they doing it? Normally, you do it to make money, right?
Right.
And I'm just looking at this going, how many people are actually gonna do this? I don't see like abundance, all of a sudden you're gonna get like a mass amount of applications of, hey, we want to do this type of event.
There's gonna be, someone wants to do a breakfast brunch event or something.
Could
We
be.
do
Because
our
it's-
wedding.
Yeah, it's limited to,
Showers.
the alcohol is limited to, so you could take, I'm just saying, if I had 4 tickets of 8 ounces of champagne, I'm not gonna go drive my car into something, like,
But that's you.
right, but.
I'm just saying, that's you without medication.
Yeah, but I like to think that on average,
Lovely goes right
humans are
through
good
your head.
people. And we're not gonna, the chance of a wedding event we're just gonna throw something out because there's a small possibility that someone is gonna circumvent this loophole to drink 4 drinks instead of 2.
I
There's
think-
just, there's
think
a
so. I
large
mean,
amount of revenue that can be
liable?
brought from this.
But the revenue isn't coming to the city. If we're talking revenue, that's for the business person. We're not making any revenue.
Yeah,
And you have
a
other,
permit fee.
we have other event venues. You have the country club, you have the Sutherland Center. So there's other places where events can be hosted. If you want to have alcohol, that doesn't have to be in the garden club or one of the streets that we shut down, in order to host it. If we're going from that aspect.
Yeah, I just don't want it to get to the point to where we're like, hey, we're the city of Lynn Haven with all these great parks, but only if the city hosts stuff.
But that's what we've always been. So
No,
Yeah.
the city's hosted stuff before and had a vendor.
Yeah, that
Sell
was when we had
alcohol.
I think they had the block party.
They had a
one
block
time,
party.
And then the commission passed not to have, alcohol. So we do not, the city, when we put on our events, we do not allow alcohol at our events. We don't allow smoking in our parks. If people do that and staff is working, we'll just come up, and we just passed last week, guy sitting out there with an open beer bottle, drinking at one of the concert series, and police went up to him and said, "Sir, there is no drinking or smoking." He had a beer bottle and smoking, and he didn't like it, but he did get up and leave. And so that is a challenge just with that alone. I'm just saying that the city, these are private events. The city is one that would not host that, because there's just no way we can contain it with all of the large events we have. We just can't.
All right, so we'll continue discussion on this. All right, thank you. Stormwater workshop to order at 11:15 a.m. Thank you all for coming to the stormwater workshop today. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just make one statement about the end of the agenda? About the alcohol?
Sure.
A citizen came to me and wanted me to present this to the commission to possibly be placed on the agenda.
Correct.
Presented me with the information, and as I would do to any citizen, present it to the commission.
Right.
So I just wanted to know, my position that.
Right. And this same citizen asked me, and I just said no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got asked the same question, had an hour conversation about it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Randy?
Felt it was worth a discussion. If the commission doesn't want it on the agenda, all they have to do is say so.
So I guess that would be the question is do we want to have a discussion on agenda item number 21?
I mean, we might as well, it's already there.
No, it's not a might as well, it's already there. Do we want to discuss it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right, so we'll discuss it.
I mean, if we don't want it, we'll vote it down.
So what are we voting on? There's a difference between
It's just a
discussion and,
discussion.
right.
Doesn't say and possible vote.
Okay, so that's all I was wondering what we voting on. Okay,
We were voting on discussing.
all right. So, all right, stormwater. All right, so, today we got two objectives. One is to get, a little more detail on the stormwater, proposal or sort of, stormwater procedure that, Sam has worked on. And then also getting some feedback from Stan Tech through, city manager and, Chris in regards to some of the things we've been asking. So just trying to get ahead of the game in regards to stormwater. No official decisions are being made today. It's just a workshop, informational purposes, and then we can follow back up later on, in regards to different questions. All right, Mr. Peoples?
All right, so first I just want to talk about the purpose of why I wanted to bring this up, and also to say that I really only want to focus on talking about the single-family homes as far as vacant property and all that. Not going to be talking about that. I'm just looking at the scope of single-family homes only here.
Well, let me ask, does your plan include vacant property or just the single family?
Just adjusting the single-family homes. Yep. So the way I see it is that it's a tier system. There's 3 tiers currently. And the idea is, the reason you have those tiers is to try to make it as fair as possible. The math just simply doesn't line up that way. It's not a method change, it's just a math change. The way that the current situation that we currently have it right now is that tier 1 is at 0.54 ERUs at $91. Tier 2 is 1.0 or $169, and tier 3 is 1.5. What that means is the average ERU would be a 1 because it's tier 2. So that means tier 1 is 46% below tier 2, and tier 3 is 50% higher than tier 2. This would work if there were an even number of property types per tier, the math would work out, but that's just simply not the case. There's a lot more tier 1 homes than anything else. So what this means is because of that, logically, if you were to take every home's ERU value, it should be somewhere around 1. If you took every single home, put it together, and averaged them all together, you want it to be as close to 1 as possible because that's what would make it fair. As of right now, it's not. Annually, the average home is actually paying $148 instead of $169, which is a 12.5% variance. Statistically, that's pretty massive.
Is it 12.5% less or more?
They're at 12% less. So we're losing out on 12.5% revenue.
All right, explain to me how you got the average again.
So I took every single home, averaged it by their ERU. So like any tier 1 home is a 5.4 ERU, any tier 3 is a 1.5. If you average all the properties together, it should be somewhere around 1, because that would mean the average home is paying tier 2.
Yeah, and I think it's been a while since I've looked at this, but I think when they originally was presented to the commission, even before I got in the commission and after I got in the commission, I think the way they determined it was the number of houses. I don't know if you remember that graph.
Yeah.
And they're like, based on the number of houses, this is the median right here. So it wasn't based on square footage, it's based on number of houses, that might be why it's.
Okay,
a little
right,
bit.
yeah, because
I'm
it's,
assuming.
because if you, so, and this is based on impervious property.
No, it was still, the initial tiers were still based on impervious for square footage, but there was only 2 tiers initially.
Right.
And then after we had, had the first year, second year, then, at the commission's direction, we went back, we added the 3rd tier. And then, like what Commissioner Peoples saying, if you add some more tiers, you kind of spread it out more to bring that average up. But it's always been the tiers were the impervious square footage.
I think he was meaning based off.
Yeah, you need to listen.
Yeah, you're back there.
Yeah.
No, what I was saying, I could be wrong, but I think the way they determined the 1.0, what's that considered, I forget.
Oh, you mean,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, Phil.
That was based on the number of houses
That's
that
right.
would fall in those.
So many in tier 1.
And
That's
so the
exactly
average
right.
number.
It was a bell curve. They were using a bell curve rather
Yes.
than just an average.
That's right.
That's exactly
I
right.
knew I had a teacher to tell me I needed that one day.
Bell curve.
Yeah, but when you only have 3
Nice.
data points, it's hard to do a true bell curve, because it's a triangle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
You want to go to the next one?
sure.
Jimmy, you go to the next one, please.
So last year, or this current year that we gathered money from Stormwater with $148 on the average single-family home, we brought in 1 million, or approximately a little over $1 million. If we were to make,
So, did you leave out the commercial and the vacant?
yes, this is
Okay.
only
Only
single
single
family.
family?
Only single
Gotcha.
family.
Okay,
This is only single family, not
Okay.
commercial.
okay.
If you were to, if we were to make the average home closer to what tier 2 is, which is $169, that would bring in an extra $132,000. This is, again, just if, rather than the average home paying $148, it would be $169, which is what tier 2 is paying. And that would be as fair as possible, because we're trying to get everyone to pay the average based on their impervious property. All right, next slide. So these are some options. I was considering to change it up a little bit. I gave 3 or 4 options. I'm not a big fan of saying do this or that. We can have multiple options here. The option, by doing these options, you could raise it to where the average ERU or the average cost would be around what tier 2 is paying. This would create a better baseline moving forward, so that when the increases happen, it'll be more baselined across the way. You could just, option 1 would be you just only mess with tier 1 and raise it a little bit to make up the difference. So that would mean you'd have to raise tier 1 up to 0.778 ERU instead of 5.4. But that would raise the cost to the equivalent of $131.51 on this year's versus what they paid, which was 91. So that's kind of a massive
And
increase.
that's a larger number.
That's a big number, yep.
So you're gonna like almost, double. You talk about percentages, that's way more than 12% going
Yep.
up.
Yep.
For a lot more houses.
Right. So not a huge fan of that option.
Yeah.
It's just one of them. All right, next. All right. Another option would be to go to a 4-tier system rather than a 3-tier. And then I broke them down into 4 different tiers. So tier 1 would only raise to 0.6 instead of 774. That would be $101 instead of 91.
But a lot of tier 1 would be trading up into tier 2, right?
Well, they'd stay within tier 1. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then you change, and then you'd have a tier 2, which would be from 1,600 to 2,999 with a 0.85 ERU, and that'd be $143. And then tier 3 would be what tier 2 is now with the 169, and then tier 4 would be higher than 4,000. That again creates 4 tiers and would bring it up to where the average home is paying $169 based on the property size of the homes we have now. All right, and then next option, next slide, 5-tier system. Option 3, if we split it up into 5 tiers, you would still have a tier 1, which is the equivalent of $91. And then you'd add another tier to where it'd be 1,600 to 3,000 essentially, up to 0.85, which would be $143.65. And then you have a tier 3, which is the equivalent of what we have now, which is the tier 2. That's $169. You'd add another tier in between 3 and 5. You'd add what would be now in between 2 and 3, but now that's a tier 4. It'd be 4,000 to 5,999, and that'd be what our tier 3 is now, which is 1.5. And you essentially just add a 5th tier at the end for the really large houses. That would be, because as it stands right now, anything in tier 3, our current tier 3 is 254. If we had a 5th tier of the really large houses, which are not many, I think there's only like 16 of them, but that would be over 6,000 square feet at a 1.72 ERU, that 290 instead of the 254. Doing it this way, we're able to keep the really small houses cheap and the really large houses to pull more of the weight too. So it's evening out the weight on more of a bell curve to make it more even, to where you don't have, this way it's more, this way the average home will be $169. It's getting closer to you're paying by the square foot. It's just more even across the board. And it'll bring in more money this way, because now on average, the city will be bringing in $169 per home instead of $148 or whatever it was, while also spreading the tiers out more, so you don't have the smaller homes or the larger homes carrying more of the weight. This way it's more even.
Why on tier 4 is your number span so much larger than the other tiers?
It's just going to
Because it's 50% more than tier 3.
Because I think he's trying to figure out.
I'm trying to keep it, it's a structure of the 3-tier system we already have, which is 0.54, 1, and 150, and just adding 2 more tiers in there to spread it out. So the tier 1 that's up there right now is the current tier 1 we have now. The tier 3 is the current.
It's not homes, it's impervious square footage, right?
Yeah, but I'm basing it off of the impervious.
Right.
How many 4 and 5s do we have? Like you said, there's only 16 5s.
I mean, I would have to go back and
But-
look, but, I mean,
Yeah,
You
there's not.
understand what I'm asking?
No.
Yes.
So I think what she's asking, Sam, is when you look at tier 3, there's a dip of 990, there's a span of 999 square foot, right? 3,039. Tier 4, 4,059.99, that's a span of 1,999 square foot. I think that's the question you're asking. right?
Yeah. There's a bigger span there, I wonder why. So instead of it being 4,999, it's 5,999. I'm just curious. I don't know mathematically.
So
I just point out what looks odd to me.
yeah, the reason for that is I was trying to keep the 3 original tiers we already had already, which
I
was the
got
point.
that.
You take
then-
an IQ test.
And then
Why?
and then I was just adding more tiers in there. I mean, we can adjust them. This is just an option.
But I imagine when you're looking at this, I'm envisioning you're probably doing your Excel sheet and you're like, all right, if I change it to this is how much
Right,
money these would
right.
bring in.
Yeah. Whereas
And that's probably how you got that span, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I'm just making assumptions.
Yeah, I was trying to calculate it as
But
close to.
systematically, I see what she's saying. It has to fall in line, and it has to be a pattern that.
He's absolutely right.
Yep.
We just got off call with Stantec, and that was one of the things Chris and I were on a call with Stantec about. We sent them your recommendation. Absolutely can add tiers.
But it has
That's
to be
not a problem.
systematic.
That's just what he said. It has to be systematically put in place. The methodology has to be clear.
Yeah.
And so that may mean there may be some adjustment up here in these first 2 or 3 tiers, simply because it has to line up with every tier.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And,
Just like giving
and then they have to give an account for those vacant properties as well.
Right.
They have to calculate that, and you tell me if I'm saying anything wrong. And commercial property, so all of that plays into how these tiers will line up, but they absolutely, we all agree, we could add additional tiers to that. They want to start on this, but they just need some direction if we want to stay with the tiers or we want to go with any improved value, which that's not really their game. I think the tiers work for us, and we just need to tell them how many. When we brought this to the commission, oh gosh, and Pat was here then, the first time, I think the first tier was like $231 or something. It was very, very high. Yeah. And the commission did not want to approve that for the average resident. So we took it back and they said, you're just going to have to take it down to where it just maintains. In our conversation with Stantec, it kind of piggybacking off what you said, and what we've talked about is that I said to them, here's what I would like to see. With these 5 tiers, couple of things. First of all, these 5 tiers, what does revenue look like? And if it's systematically put in place. And then secondly, the city is going to supply them with all of their needs and capital for the next 5 years to also have in place some type of reserves for stormwater. What does that look like if we were to do that as well? Because you hear Kiki keep talking about there's not some emergency, there's not reserve. We need to look at that particular methodology of what those rates would look like if we did all or nothing, and let you see that as well. And then I think the fourth thing is they would have to look at vacant land and figure out a way to incorporate that without taking any revenue away. Because currently this year, with the method they have in place, we're going to bring in about $1.7 million, somewhere along in there. Yeah.
So it's 5 by 5?
Yeah.
You have to look it up.
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost us for us to do all of that?
Yes, and so that's what I wanted to talk to you about. They did send us a proposal, and I like the commission's approval to move forward on this or to do this, is that if we did any of this, we switched to any of these tiers, that means that we have to go back out. When it's time, we have to send letters, because now you're doing some different.
Just like when we did the.
Just like you did before, you're doing different rates. Normally, that will cost us a little bit over about $10,000. That's not something that Stantec goes to Stantec, that goes to mailing. And so their proposal for them to do all of this work and to have you some options by January is $31,000, and then adding the $10,000 would be like $41,000. Okay. So
what, aren't we in bed with Stantec right now?
yes, sir. Mhm.
What do we pay in?
Yeah, it's however we put the task order together.
But what I'm hearing is that we're going to pay $41,000 just for them to give us something to reconsider.
That we already know.
So it's not.
It's preparation of the rule
no.
and mailing out
Because
everything.
they come back to us every year anyway.
I understand that. I'm saying to the commission, we're going to pay $40,000, 31,000 for them just to systematize something for us to reconsider. That's what I'm saying.
Right, and when they normally come, it's, you can compare costs, it's 41,000, and Kiki just said it.
24,000. We're going to pay him, whether you do this or not, we're going to pay him 24,000.
We're gonna pay them 24,000 regardless.
So 24,000.
Because we're already in bed with them, that's what we pay for them to come to us every year.
So we're going to pay an additional.
And
we
we have
have
an
to-
additional 31.
And Florida dictates you have to use
No,
a company.
It would be an additional
17.
seven.
No, not necessarily. But there are different consultants who do the assessment work.
But you have to use somebody. We can't do it ourselves, right?
You can, but it has to stand up in court. Your method has
Yeah,
to be.
you gotta run it by somebody
Your
like
safety
Stantec
of having an
anyway.
independent third party who compares the reports.
Right.
and does the analysis.
So
It's
we
not
have-
a requirement. It's
It's
prudent. Yeah, prudent. It's good practice.
How's that?
So we could do this in-house if we wanted
If you
to.
have the resources.
So here's what happens.
A lot of people don't.
If we do it in-house and then one of our citizens sues us, then does our methodology stand up
And he makes more money.
But if Stan Tech does it and they sue us, then they sue Stan
Well,
Tech.
now, I mean,
Because their methodology is proven.
Right.
So Stantec can go back and say, these are 10 other cases that prove that this worked.
I got
And when we
you.
talked with Mark Lawson, that's what he kept repeating was that this is stand up in court. This is stand up in
Mark
court.
Lawson.
He was
He
the,
does the alternative methodology where you
Oh,
value the improvements.
Yeah, the guy he did it by, property value.
And do we really want to take
So
on
we
this?
could-
No, because of the fact that you have experts that do it. And, you know,
You'd have
people.
to hire different people.
Yeah.
And when you do
hire
it by
different-
property values.
And, you know, people already don't trust the
appraisals.
government that much. So I think independently of the city is a good thing to do. So Kiki said, you know, we're going to pay them $24,000 regardless. For them to do these additional things, because you need to know what it's going to take to run stormwater and to have some reserves. We've not done that. For them to do all of these things, $24,000 plus another $7,000 is $31,000 is what we would pay them.
okay,
Now,
so we're looking at a $7,000 difference instead.
yes, sir, yes, that's the.
Okay.
So if we added tiers, we're just adding $7,000.
No, we're adding 7,000 just for them to give us, like you just did.
7,000 for that.
But
and
not only
10,000
that,
to
they're
manage.
running the other methodologies for you as well. You keep asking a question, I know Commissioner Ward asked, what would it take to get reserves? Or what would it take for us to have these capital items for the next 5 years? All of these things here Kiki's been saying, we don't have that answer.
I guess here's our question, and I guess here's the clarity, so clear this for me then. We're gonna, and I'm not saying not to do it, I'm just trying to get clarity. So we're gonna pay them $7,000, do what Sam just did, which is bring us this, right? Bring us the tier system. I'm not saying not to do that, just follow me. We pay $7,000 for that. Like we normally do, we don't agree with it. We send it back and say, can you readjust? Or we're gonna be charged for that, for them to go back and readjust the tier
No,
system.
once they give us their task order, that's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, their
we can give
task
them
order.
additional stuff.
Yes, you're exactly right. Remember, they've come to you before, and you haven't liked something, and then they go back and they'll change
Right,
something.
but we weren't sure if they were getting
Yeah.
paid again or
Yeah.
what was being.
Well, here's my thought on it. So if we're paying them $7,000 to do that.
Additional.
Because we're already required to pay.
31,000 total, so
Yeah,
everybody's
but we got,
clear.
but it's 24 regardless. right?
Yes.
So we're paying an extra 7,000 for something we're already gonna pay. When just,
But that's with the mail out.
Mail outs.
Right.
Yeah,
so
includes the
potentially an
mail-out.
extra 17,000, with the mail outs.
correct.
But if we raise, just looking at single family homes, if we leave the methodology exactly how it is, and all we do is adjust the single family homes to a 5-tier system, we're gonna bring in over $100,000 in revenue.
But that's with your methodology,
Right.
not with theirs.
I understand that.
Right, no, I'm not arguing, I'm saying your I'm not saying you're wrong. Your methodology brings us in 100,000. Their
My method's
methodology.
not different. We're both talking about the same method. We just need to tell them, make sure that you get the cost as close to 1 ERU as possible. If they do that, we're bringing in 100,000.
Can I interject some information here?
Yes.
When this started all these years ago, the city gave them information about projects that we wanted to complete. That is an ancient list.
That's right.
That list is no good anymore. So if for no other reason, I would support the idea of doing this with a new list
Yes.
so that we can get a better handle on what stormwater department actually needs today rolling forward, not what it was 5 years ago rolling forward.
Yeah, I don't think we're saying we're not going to do it. I think we're just trying to understand what the expectations are from once we do it.
The $7,000 gives you the opportunity, or it spans the scope of services.
That's all
so
it
that-
does.
So that Stantec has the opportunity to run different numbers and different tiers, and it's.
And different
And then
methodologies
with new
and
projects.
whether or not you're going to have reserves. Here's how much it would take for you, for these different tiers, for you to have some type of reserves. Here's how much it's going to take, not just to have maintenance. We talked about this. That right now, Chris's department with stormwater is just maintenance. It's not projects. It's all of those things, but we want to be able to see what are some of those capital projects, yes.
And segueing off both what Kiki and Vicky said, so when we started this 5 years ago, we presented the list to Stantec. of capital improvement projects. It included the HMGP projects, the grants, everything. The Stormwater Master Plan as it was approved in 2019. They presented to the commission a 5-year plan to raise the rates, first implement it, then raise the rates, complete those projects, and start building a reserve. At year 5 was the first year that we would be in the positive.
That's right.
And we would be able to start funding a reserve. The commission, and with all due respect to everyone, the commission did not follow that plan. There was the second year, we did not have an increase. The third year, we did not have the proper increase. And the fourth year, we did not have the proper increase. So we are still very much behind.
So today, the stormwater fund is in the hole, $869,000 today.
So if we continue to every year come back and have a Stantec proposal or a Tetra Tech proposal or whoever we decide to do it, we've probably spent $200,000 so far with Stantec. That may be a bit much, maybe $150,000 over 5 years to do this, and we still are not sticking to the plan. So we work for her, she works for you all. We're running in circles until we get a plan that we stay with. And you all have to approve this plan every year. And we have to get there to build the reserve. We just had a $31,000 expense Monday at the Merrick entrance for a stormwater crossing where the pipe caved in. Merrick has one entrance. It cost us $31,000 to repair that. Now that could be a year repair, it could be a 10-year repair. Eventually, we're gonna have to budget to replace that whole crossing. It's gonna be a $500,000 project at least. We do not have the money to do that. I'm sorry?
Is that near an outfall?
No, sir, it's that canal crossing. But we can do this every year and still not fund our reserves, or we can get a plan and we have no opinion on whether it's tiers, whether it's improvement value. We like the tiers, absolutely, and I do agree with Commissioner Peoples. I like these more tiers.
Yes.
And how it spreads it out. But we've got to get a plan and stay with it. And either you all approve it for the next 5 years, it increases X amount of dollars or X amount of percent per their recommendation, or every year we bring it back to you. But we are absolutely running in circles during budget season. We can't plan anything accordingly, and we can't build a reserve.
I'm sorry, now are we having to, if we approve a 5-year plan, would we still then have to have a relationship with Stantec during that time period?
Only if you all change something. I mean, they would not have to come, if you all approve a 5-year plan and say, hey, and Amy can interject if I say this wrong, but if you approve a resolution that every October 1st it increases X amount percent per tier,
right,
then we would not have to go with Stantec. Now, would we still keep our relationship open with Stantec? Absolutely.
Yeah, we would have to, because they have to
They
prepare the
prepare the
role.
role.
So I'm saying, we have to pay the $24,000 every
Well,
year?
because the impervious method requires them to look at the aerial maps every year
Every
to see
year.
where the new impervious land
Yeah.
has come and where new vacant land is.
And the new parcels that have annexed into
So
the city.
they will update it.
Yes.
So each year they will still update it, but I do understand your point, because we've been here since it's been started, that
Yeah.
each year we come back. 1 year we didn't improve, and 1 year we didn't increase anything, versus just having a 5-year plan. and just
This is
saying-
year 5, we're still in the hole and we still don't have a reserve.
You can't lock the commission, you can't lock in future commissions by adopting a 5-year plan. You can say, this is our intent, that we want to get to a place where we're saving reserves in year 5. And it takes a lot of political will every year to have that conversation and stick to that plan.
And then you also take into consideration any unforeseen circumstance. So if we have another catastrophic event, God forbid, we could put that information into the new calculations.
I guess if we can't lock in a future commission on a 5-year plan, I understand why we discuss 5-year plans. Well, then why discuss a 5-year plan instead of just saying,
Well, because they need to base the study. And so,
Correct.
and to
Right.
show that this is what we're asking you to do your rate increase year over year, so that this commission can see, for at least the term of your service,
Right.
that this is palatable and it's not going to mean a 20% rate hike right before my reelection.
right,
Or, in year 2 or at the very end of it to make it right. I agree that getting to reserves is the long-term goal, and I agree to it and I commit to it.
But each year we have to come back and vote whether or not we want to make that increase.
Same way with taxes.
Same thing, yeah,
Okay.
every year. But it's in place.
It's in place.
And that's the
study
whole
that's based
goal.
on a 5-year plan.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's up to you to execute on
Yes.
that every year and to sort of reestablish your commitment to that 5-year
Yeah,
plan.
and so
But I
that's,
think we change this plan every year, though.
Well,
I mean, and I think
And that's my frustration, is we keep changing the plan every year.
Each year, we don't really have a 5-year plan, because each year and I'm not against you, Sam, but we change the plan. So,
when you adjust downwards.
Yes.
You can no longer honor that plan.
that's
Got it.
exactly right. That's exactly
Got
right.
it.
My plan, you make more money.
right, and we understand, but we're just saying each year, like when,
I think what the mayor is saying is whatever plan we go, we need to stick with.
Yes.
yeah, because each year we do come back and we
Agreed.
change the plan.
Agreed.
I'm listening.
Yes.
Agree.
Like we're saying with utility rates, they brought us a 5-year plan, we're saying, okay, hey, this is what we're gonna do when it comes back up, we sort of agree, saying, hey, yeah, we accept this 5-year plan, but we do change, okay.
And who knows, when this comes back from Stantec, there may be additional revenue. We don't know until they do the study, they implement the capital improvement side of it, and you can see daylight for the residents in 5 years, or even 2 years, or what have you. So we don't sit down in budget time and have to pick and choose what's most important in the city. That's our challenge right now.
So this is a non-ad valorem assessment.
You're correct. You're correct.
So now, I guess the
That would
other,
go away.
Yeah, you can choose not to adopt it, but then you have to pay for any stormwater obligations out of your general fund.
Right.
So as a non-ad valorem assessment, it is dedicated to only the stormwater capital projects and operations.
Comes off property tax.
But it's restricted.
Yeah.
See, and that's
There's predictability and accountability in that.
the thing that drives me nuts with this whole thing is, I'd like to use the ad valorem for the stormwater, but you can't. Like, I would want to say, whatever our stormwater rate is, point
Factored in.
such and such, that all goes to stormwater. And then we go and we decide, do we want to raise it by, so many millage points, point so many millage points, this just
Yeah.
goes to storm, but you
yeah,
can't.
that'll make it a lot
You
easier.
can't dog
It
ear,
would.
you can't dog ear
It
the
would.
millage.
But you can't do that, and that's what drives me nuts, is, I think it would
But now,
cut a lot of red tape.
but if we took away the assessment, that basically we have to pay it out of the general fund, which would then go back to what you just said.
Yeah.
So that could
And
work
raise it.
if we had to do that.
Again, all of the political forces have to work together. And I don't know if you have any obligations that require the restricted use. I mean, if you have any debt obligations or current obligations that require your now not for warrant assessment, that those restricted funds.
But we-
I would be careful.
I would do.
So we couldn't, every year when we look at the millage rate, can't look at the millage rate and go, all right, 0.5 of the millage, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, I have no idea. But we can't sit there and go 0.5 goes specifically to stormwater.
You can. The danger is that when something shiny comes up, a shiny opportunity comes up, it's real easy to say, I'm going to take this money we've put aside for stormwater and use it for this shiny thing.
But we can't vote on and say that, you can't use that money for anything else but stormwater. We can't do that, can we?
I guess almost like creating a fund within the general
It's a budget.
fund.
It's your budget. You can set it up however you want to. The nature,
see what I'm getting
legally,
at?
if you have a non-ad
Yeah,
assessment.
take the dollar
you can
amount
only
of
use it
heating
for that.
factored into the
And
millage.
While it feels
And-
like extra taxes,
Not hitting
it
anybody
is,
that's not
it
that
is a restricted use fund that can only be used for that singular purpose. So it frees up, having a non-ad valorem assessment in my mind, frees up the general fund to do other
Well,
things.
and what happens, and I do see Commissioner Ward's point, I see your point. When we talk about political capital, what happens is that when I open up my thing I got the other day and I see, okay, I got to pay this amount of money to Lynn Haven. And then I think I'm in tier, I don't know which tier I'm in, but then I got to pay, let's see. That's not the one I'm paying right now. So then I see a separate non-assessment. So people are coming upset. They're not coming upset over the ad valorem. They're coming upset over the $200 they're paying. And so if that $200 somehow could be masked as part of, the ad valorem.
The easier way to accomplish what I think you're trying to do would be to instruct us to move money from the general fund into the stormwater fund.
Enterprise fund.
Correct. I caution against that. I don't like that methodology, but it would accomplish what I think you're trying to do. It's because it masks really what the stormwater department costs to run. And my ultimate goal is to report to you, what does the stormwater department cost to run? And if we start throwing general fund money into there, it gets murky and it's much more difficult for me to report those numbers to you.
And every
Got a good
year
idea what
where
the
we
cost
have
is.
built in our capital, that also means you have to raise your ad valorem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're gonna raise it. I will tell
If
you
do
a
away
lot.
with this- If you,
Raising your ad valorem is better than seeing a separate non-ad valorem that everybody gets pissed off about.
if you do away with your stormwater assessment fee,
People get mad.
you would have to raise the ad.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, oh yeah.
Absolutely.
You got rid of it, you'd have to raise it.
Yeah, I don't think we're saying, I think we're just having a discussion on, not that we're saying not to raise the ad valorem, but then, right now, we keep coming back to this every year. So what Commissioner Ward is proposing is that instead of 5 tiers or Stantec, then we just be able to say, because that would probably just cut out Stantec altogether.
Yeah.
So that would cut out the 24,000 we're having to pay Stantec by just saying, Chris says it's $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is, whatever y'all come up with. We go into whatever that's going to take for the ad valorem to increase to generate another $1 million based on that, and then that fund goes into that.
I will say you've got
You
it,
don't like
the,
that.
the hard political fight to actually establish a non-ad valorem assessment, and you've already
You've already
fought
won.
and won.
Yeah, you're
Correct.
And so while there is likely pushback and complaints, you've already done the really hard part. And so keeping that revenue stream would be my strong recommendation. Now,
Got it.
how you adopt it and at what rate is
Yeah.
completely up to you.
Yeah.
We're always gonna be fiddling around.
So while legally you can do away with it, it is my strong recommendation that you can.
Municipalities are almost all going to a stormwater non-ad valorem throughout the state, throughout the country.
It's a problem all
It's-
communities have to solve. And having that non-ad valorem gives some comfort and predictability to your community that you are paying attention to it.
But we gotta hang.
Sorry, I didn't mean to mix the pot, I just,
It's all good.
Hey, that's good.
That's why we got the workshop, so we can discuss it.
I would much rather see it in one bundle when you're looking at your property tax than see it there and then there. You know what I mean?
Well, think of what Bay County does, right?
Bay County's got high.
Well, it's not that it bothers you, but what happens is when people
You know, they've got several
triggers.
different line items too.
So we're helping you.
5.6,
We tell
I
you what
think,
we
last
tell
I
you.
looked.
No, it's way lower than ours, way higher than ours.
So so just, but nonetheless, and also it would just, and not that we have to consider it, you wouldn't have to worry about, again, the tier system, trying to figure out how many people is this or that. And it would basically just go back to what, if you're talking about equal opportunity, it was essential that the property
Everybody's paying the
tax,
same.
would basically determine what that would be. So, but, so the question is, do we want to, we see the different
forward.
options that Sam has
Yes.
given, 4-tier system, 5-tier system. Which one of these would we like for Stantec to run the numbers on? Or would we want to see 4-tier system and a 5-tier system?
They could do all of that. I just need some direction to say, yes, go on and do that, so I can sign the task order.
when you
That's
didn't
all they
know
need
about it.
today. Because I want them, at least by Tuesday, I want them to start on this so they can bring you something in January. Remember, you guys wanted it early, and in order to get it early, we got to do these things now.
They will present the different options. They'll say,
Yeah, they'll do all those
there's
options
5
for you.
tiers, this is what you would generate, this is what the tiers
Here's
look like.
4 tiers.
There's 4 tiers. That's,
Yeah.
doing it this way, and that's no
Here's
additional
account
cost
for
of
your
what-
reserves in here, this is what it's
Would they
gonna
look
look
at
like.
commercial too?
so the commercial falls into these tiers. Sam
Yes.
just set it up for,
So
to
he
show
was-
this,
but
to
Sam
show
was
what
thinking it was only on
residential.
residential.
Well, they still
It's-
follow the
it's
tiers, but he
completely
just did it for his presentation. I'm
Almost
assuming-
commercial would then go to tier 5 almost automatically,
No,
right?
commercial doesn't go,
It's valued differently.
yeah, it's valued differently. This is
It's not,
completely
it's
independent.
not tied to an ERU. commercial
Yeah.
properties.
I know this probably won't add any value to the conversation, but
Go with it.
I think the reason why we struggle with this so much, it's not like water and sewer where you can go and say, you use this much water and sewer, and this is what you pay. But stormwater, it's hard to quantify what your usage is. There's no 100% fair way to do it.
Well, and there's not just one way
Right.
to do it.
Just for curiosity, what does .5 on our ad valorem bring to the city?
Point
When you go
five or
from
point, the
four-
.05, that was
Oh, yeah.
$72,000.
Well, we raised it to,
72,000 and change.
That was point oh.
all right. So the.
Is that what your question was?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
So the method that we're using now generates $1 million.
That's just single.
That's just this.
Just the single family.
Single family, what's the
You're still
total?
getting, like, it's like 1.7.
1.5, you said?
Hey,
The total?
Is it
It was
1.5 or
1.7 this, it was 1.7 this year. It raised
She has a
every
better
year.
memory than I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'd have to raise it one
full
whole
point.
point for ad valorem
Mhm.
to make what we make now.
That's
Right?
Yep, pretty much.
You have to do some, you have to
That'd be
correct the numbers, but it-
$1.4 million.
I don't know that that's math I can do in my head.
Well, also you have to factor in too,
72,000
though,
is .05.
when it's non-ad valorem, people that are tax exempt still have to pay non-ad valorem. Whereas if it's ad, if it's ad valorem,
There you
the
go.
people that are tax exempt,
Yep.
they not be paying it.
That is very true.
Sounds right.
So we have a lot of veterans here. That
Yeah, that are exempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
I'm
Avalon.
not one of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So if you
Everybody
recall, we
pays
presented to the commission, I think it was 3 years ago, I think we were still in the senior center.
I remember that.
And there were only 11, I believe, that would qualify for this. And at that time, the commission voted not to extend that exemption for non-ad valorem.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well,
That was
my
for
point is that,
disabled,
like, if,
Right.
if you're running the math on how much you'd have to raise the millage rate to compensate, you'd probably have to raise it more than you think.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
agree.
Causes
So
the-
you would have to raise it more than one?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, there's a lot of exemptions.
Oh, yeah.
Just say you need $2 million a year, that's a pretty substantial
That's a lot.
increase of the millage.
I just wanted to compare.
But I guess as a citizen, it doesn't matter because I'm still paying it either way.
Well,
I mean,
But if it went to a millage, if it went to ad valorem, you'd actually have to pay more because you have to compensate for the people that are paying non-ad valorem
You start
that would not
subsidizing
have to pay
what they're paying.
that ad valorem.
It also makes people's mortgage go up. So you can pay that off and your mortgage is still the
And
same.
let's keep in mind, we just passed that amendment, increase
Oh,
your
my God, yes.
Oh, that's true. Homestead exemption.
like the
Exemption.
churches are exempt, they still have to pay the non-ad valorem. The disabled veterans still have to pay the non-ad valorem.
So we all agree that the ad valorem is not the way to go, right?
Correct. I would agree there.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
It's a high political cost.
Yes, it is. It is. But I just wanted to get started on this early. We have them on the contract. Only thing I need to do is sign the TO.
So you need to know, what you need from us is if we're open to any of these options, and if they are, which ones you need to present us.
Not that we're open to these
No,
options, just we're open
lots
to
of-
Stantec,
Stantec
which they've already seen
review.
this, and
Yeah.
Stantec presenting options such as this to the commission for
And
approval
additional
for next.
ones. They've already seen this, they're looking at it, there were some things they like. Not only are they going to present this, they may do us a 4. They may do with everything that it would take to totally fund stormwater and have reserves left over. So there are going to be several options they
So
bring into
let me
you.
ask this, because you know I've said this multiple times. I always like to have 3 different options to pick from. Can we do that with
We'll
this?
give you 5
Yes.
different options.
We'll give you however many you want.
An option, there's always one option, do nothing, so you
We
got.
can do We can absolutely do
So
that.
now, is Stantec taking into consideration, because I think what we're getting with these options though, is trying to get to an average number of what a person pays. And our previous options that we have with Stantec, that's not what is, that wasn't the goal per se.
They're not changing their methodology. They
Yeah.
would be changing the proposed rate system and their study to get you to whatever number.
So right now, we're at a 3-tier, right?
Yes.
So they could do a 3, 4, and a 5-tier?
Right, but I'm saying with the
They could do
5 tier,
10 tiers,
this is still, if we're saying the 5-tier option, are we saying the 5-tier option with trying to get to this average number of what everybody's paying?
Yeah,
basically.
that's my thing.
That's what his, if I'm sorry, Sam, is that what you're, I don't think it's so much that Sam is saying, hey, this is 5 tiers, this is what gets us to,
Right, he's trying to spread, you're trying to spread it
It's
out.
a
with a
5-tier
more fair
system.
approach.
Yeah,
yeah.
the 5-tier system is the easiest way to get the average single-family home to be paying 1 ERU without causing tier 1 to pay a crap ton of money to get there.
So I think if that's what we're wanting to do, so it's not just saying, hey, let them look at 5 tiers, it's 5 tiers with, what are we trying to get them to do, get into that limit? That's what I'm.
And with new
And,
numbers.
correct, because
Right,
we have to
right.
remember,
Within the
we've got to include our capital projects
Yeah,
in
right,
that as
Right.
well.
Right.
And, you know,
That's a variable
the-
that you,
the 2019 plan, you know, included the HMGP projects that we have
Put on hold.
funding, right, we're waiting state to approve the construction dollars. We will not include that in our number that we need out of pocket because the state will take care of that. However, the Aberdeen design, when the construction dollars are not accounted for, we have
not.
to pay for that. The west side outfall that we hope to bring to you all in December,
yeah,
that's not accounted for.
Is that on Vermont?
That is, from Maine to Maryland, 19th to
Yes.
14th.
Oh.
That is not on that's not accounted for. So, I mean, there are millions of dollars of projects that we have to account for over the years, but ultimately a reserve to get us out of a bind in case something happens.
I do agree with Commissioner Ward that you need more than one option to look at.
And I'm
I
just
really
gonna,
do.
I'm gonna throw something else in the mix that's gonna just
Well, let's go.
mess it all up too.
Make that cake, man, make that cake.
The vacant lots, you know?
We talked about that.
So we had to bring that up. We talked
I
about
know,
that.
I know,
Bring that up, man.
We talked.
but it's a tough one, man, because it's, when you look at, and I know Corey Langford loves to bring this up, but I have to agree with him, it doesn't make sense with the vacant lots.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I think the vacant lot, I mean, that lot is probably, it's depending on what the property tax is probably valuing that lot at, though.
And one of the things we did talk about, Commissioner Ward, was vacant lots, looking at whether or not there's just one set amount for them. You know what I mean? Just looking
Right.
at that and seeing if there's just one set amount. But when you do that, also you got to take in an account, it may drive up your residential
Yeah,
zone
and we
as
could just
well.
get the
that's
option.
what I'm getting at.
Yes, you're exactly
So
right.
I don't want to raise the vacant lots any, my opinion, just my opinion. I don't want to raise the vacant lots any more than they already are.
That's
I mean, if we can decrease it, that would be awesome,
Yes.
but we know that would be a tough sell, but that's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
And every consultant that we've talked to about it has said the vacant parcels are the most difficult to do with stormwater, just because
They
of
are.
how it is.
Well, particularly if you're using an impervious-based method.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and he's right, there, you know, you might have a property, you know, that might be tier 2, and but with your vacant lot, you might be paying more, and it's
Yeah,
like,
if you knocked down my
And
house,
your-
I'd be paying
Your
more.
vacant parcels, if this parcel perks very well and stormwater just hits it and perks into the ground, this parcel does not, how can you justify the cost difference too? I mean, they're.
and it goes back,
But
it's hard, you
that's-
can't measure
Right.
usage.
It's
Again,
it's a
that's
very
a problem
difficult
unique to
task.
this methodology.
That's right.
The improvement-based methodology.
That's right.
There you go.
Solves that
Now,
particular.
is there a blend of the two methodologies?
I'm not aware of it. It could be out there.
You know-
Stantec doesn't do it, and Mark Lawson doesn't do it. They certainly have their, if there is a hybrid, I'm not aware of it, but
Yeah,
there
right.
could be someone out
We
there.
want to say, hey, for vacant lots, can we do this and then do, the tier system for
But if
everything
you
else?
say yes today, I just want to make clear, you're saying yes to Stantec and your current methodology.
Right, I think we're staying with, we've already looked at the impervious with Mark Lawson, and we didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked his methodology, it just was, there was too much put on the residential side.
right.
Yeah, it
And I
was
wish there
all
was a
about
way
property
that we
value.
could have changed it where it could put more. on
It's about
the
appraisal.
side.
Well, in theory though, a tier 5 home is gonna have a higher improvement value than a tier 1, and I shouldn't have said home, a tier 5 parcel is gonna have a higher improvement value than a tier 1 parcel. Cause I'm not gonna have a 6,000 square foot home that's worth $50,000, and you're gonna have a 1,000 square foot home that's worth $700,000. I mean, that would, so theoretically,
It works itself.
right.
So with the
Your
tiers,
driveways, your
wanna be
your
clear,
RV ports.
So you can give me some direction.
so we're asking Stantec to give us multiple options.
Yes.
'Cause right now we have 3 tiers. Sam presented 4 and 5, so we want to look at tier 3, 4, and 5 that'll satisfy 3 options. Tier 3, 4, and 5. And then that based on what you're saying you need to do the capital improvement projects. Once, like that'll be one, I guess, presentation, and the next presentation would be 3 tiers for capital improvement plus whatever the reserves would be.
Yes.
And the vacant lots,
With the consideration of
Vacant
reconfiguring
lots.
vacant lots.
yes.
And we did chat about that.
Okay, and so
Yeah,
that'll be
they'll
for
have those options.
both presentations. Is that,
It's probably gonna be just one altogether.
well, I'm saying one presentation is gonna be, or one is gonna be, hey, this is 3 tiers without reserves. The second is gonna be 3 tiers with reserves, or the 3
Okay.
with reserves. Not a different presentation, not that they're gonna come at 2 different times.
So he's looking for 6 different proposals, with and without reserves, is that what you're saying?
No. Looking for tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5
Right,
with reserve options.
that's 3,
Right, so yeah, 6 different proposals, and then that without.
without.
Because I'm just going off what y'all said. Y'all said, hey, you want to see it with and without. That's what.
Let's get our $7,000.
I agree with you. Yes.
With the vacant property consideration as well,
Yes.
and all of this.
Yes. And just remembering, if you change the tiers, you do have to send out letters again, which
It's a
is,
new public hearing,
It's
it's
a
a new
new-
notice.
yeah,
So you're saying if we change the tiers and it costs 10, so it's going to cost us.
we do have to send them out.
If you change the status quo in terms
Right.
of your rates and methodologies, if you add a new tier,
We have to
that
tell
is an
them.
adjustment that triggers a public hearing and
Yeah.
Have it make
an
a-
individual notice to
Yeah.
everybody,
Service of
you're
the
making those
city.
adjustments.
That's where the
So we change
$10,000.
the, so that's where the 17,000 or
That's
That's the
the
extra 10.
extra
Yeah.
10 comes in.
And that's just mailing. That has nothing to do with Stantec. They're just
So if
taking
you're
up
gonna spend
the,
$7,000 to run your numbers, then you'll make a decision what to do. And if that decision means
Stay where
you're
you
gonna
are.
add a new tier,
It means Sam's
that's when
way,
you'll incur that $10,000
which
cost.
will be, but it'll come back in more revenue.
And don't, you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't fret about it too much. I remember the first time we did it, it didn't drive too many people out. We did that, no problem.
Oh, you can hear about that.
We also got like 27 inches of rain the week of.
Yeah. Pretty quick.
would you then also have to have?
And it's gotten better since you've made it better when we get.
Which is if we change
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
gotten
if it- yeah,
better.
but that'll
Because we've
be
been able to
after.
afford
Yeah.
To dig
When-
ditches.
Yeah.
What's the timeline then?
So I asked them to have something ready, and they said that they could if you all told me to go ahead and sign the TO by January, I think about the middle of January, somewhere in there, and that would be actually a workshop. I mean, people will come out and see that then.
Is this something that we need to put on the agenda?
It's up to y'all. It's up to y'all. If you want to direct her to sign this task order, understanding she,
Yeah, I
or you
think-
want to take an official vote, it's up to you. The quicker she signs it, the quicker they get started.
That's exactly right.
I think to let the residents know it's important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So then, so you're saying put it on the agenda?
I think so. What do you guys think?
Sure.
It's
So
just.
then, if we don't, it makes it
Task
look like we're hiding something.
I think you already have a standing several
You
year
do.
agreement. And this is just a task order that sets the scope of services for
Yeah,
this year.
that's all it is.
Is this in the budget already?
Nope.
No,
You had some additional money, and Chris is gonna have to utilize some of his money in stormwater to do that.
We're utilizing stormwater money that's already $800,000.
$869,000 in the hole.
That makes sense.
Borrow.
Let me
You
ask
got,
you
you
this.
got to pay for it somehow.
If I walked up to you and said, hey, if you give me $7, I'll give you $100 back, would you do that? Because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about it.
Pull out my wallet right now.
Am I signing the task order to send to Stan Tech today?
We hadn't voted on it.
But you got a note today, or you said Tuesday at the latest?
It's up to you.
Sooner the better.
Yeah. I'm just trying to give them some.
I mean, I
direction.
think we have an idea what's gonna happen, so.
All right. Sam, are you good for her signing today? You good?
I'm very good.
Good. Yes, all right, let's sign today.
Especially since Chris is paying for it.
Chris gets a lot of bills. And
Yeah, let's sign today. And I would encourage us, as I do each year, that when this comes back, let's try to stick to a plan and just follow through. I mean, I understand we do want to, make the adjustments and things like that.
So is this going to be discussed at the meeting, just as a point of information? Or
No,
does it need to be?
You don't have
Well,
nothing to
again,
discuss yet.
If you want, I can tell them during my commissioner's report, hey, we had a discussion on this. You can go back and listen to it on YouTube at this URL. Yeah, because then, I mean, we'd just be repeating the same stuff.
Well, I don't want
we don't
you
want to
stay-
excite the citizens.
Right, and you not even do it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the only caution I would give.
Yeah, because people do get excited about stormwater stuff. So,
Yeah.
and like Amy said, it did cost us a lot of.
People get excited about their bills going up from the radio.
it's the whole reason I get out of bed every morning.
Yeah. So, that, they made a big news article about that in Panama City, about some people's bills went up a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and the only
Are you
reason
doing
I said
notices
that,
when you change out meters?
We have.
Speaking of that, I think, we mentioned radio, I think the city manager has already given everyone clarity on the whole, reserve comment that was made by the news station and then promoted by, certain social media profilers and all that stuff. So one, we never said that we don't know what's in reserves.
Correct.
Right? We never said that. So, one, I was never asked that question. So no one ever asked me that.
they specifically said Lynn had.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They got scared and did a big follow-up.
Yes, because I called you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. That made me angry when I saw it, man.
So they did say, oh, Lynn Haven's the only one that didn't respond. When we asked the mayor, he said he didn't know a response from the city, and that never happened.
Yeah,
So
that angry.
that was after the Grease Pro meeting. Wasn't the Grease Pro meeting, but when Grease Pro was the highlight of the meeting. So they ran that story the next day, and it was supposed to be a Panama City story. And then they ran it on us, or included us as well as some other municipalities. So just want to be clear that number one, those things are never stated. Two, our reserves are doing very well with what we have in our bank account. So we're not broke.
Well, we came out looking good.
We did.
Yeah, we came out looking good when they stated our actual reserves.
Yeah, also, number 18, is anyone against removing that to the consent agenda? Number 18 is about the telecommunications, just renewing that option, or not renewing that option, but the telecommunications, 78,000 that we talked to Samuel about.
We have to have phones.
Yeah, you can't.
So anyone against moving that to the consent agenda?
Oh, moving it to the consent, yeah, sure.
All right. So yeah, you'll move that to the consent. All right.
Commissioner Baker.
Oh, you ended it? I thought we were going around. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys, you all understand that $3 million that we committed to Mott McDonald is to do the study on the
Design and planning.
design and planning for the wastewater. But if we move the wastewater, we're in negotiation. So, I mean, their study, they would go from the Headworks project to how we're gonna move everything.
Good, correct.
Keep in mind too, we're still awaiting our consent order from DEP for the
Yeah.
wastewater
Yes.
plant. And once we receive that, that will open up
That
more
will
doors.
open up more doors.
It will, because we'll be having a solution that might
And they like
alleviate
that
the consent
solution.
order.
Yeah, well, they like that solution. I've
like
already
it.
talked to
Yeah,
Ms. Orr,
yeah.
and she does like that
Yeah.
solution. And I will tell you, county is more than helpful. And I think that either way, if we don't have the money, we can work out something
Yeah,
with
because
the
the county has a firm that does this.
Yes, Rack
stuff too.
Pellets.
Yeah.
That's,
I think that's a big deal, man, instead of,
yeah, so we are moving
So
forward.
it's an
We'll-
environmental
yeah.
thing, it's probably a great move to save money for us.
Yes.
So let them so that would just be letting them handle all the wastewater then?
They would handle all the waste, we would handle all the retail.
Yeah.
We'd give them 20,000 customers, We would help keep the rate low, but we would handle the retail, so we get ourselves paid for handling the retail. We pay them for managing the plant, and, you know,
And we pick up
but
more
we
service
find,
area.
yeah, we don't have to plan anymore. We
Yeah, we don't have to
decommission
build
the
a whole
plant,
new waste
then we go
That
after,
maybe-
then we go after grants to take that decommissioned plant and turn it into an amphitheater or something cool for the park.
Yeah.
And people don't have smell in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
You have good ideas every now and then.
Yeah.
And I gotta give you
This is,
credit for
no, it's
smell over
really
there.
great idea.
Not really.
The smell and
Only when it rains and we pump it back
Yeah.
into the bay.
So that's where we are, Beth.